together. All right, so we got the rundown ready. Jaws, take it away. Episode 141.
Plat Chat, episode 141. An American, a British man, and a Swedish man walk into a bar. Sounds like the start of a bad joke, but it is. It's a very bad joke, so it's just us three today. It's going to be a good time, though. Yes. Welcome, everybody. I'm hosting, finally, because Johnny's producing, and he needs multiple fucking arms to produce because he can't read, and he can't read Kurt's document.
I am having a terrible time of it right now, all right? And now I was forced to produce. So I'll say this at the start of the episode. Kurt did a phenomenal job putting together a guide. It has everything. It's literally if I was able to, I could have run this show exactly like Kurt did it. He set everything up to a T. But I just couldn't. I'm technologically like inept. I couldn't do it. I ran into like a bug, and like the lower thirds wouldn't show, and there was some browser source HTML error or something, and I was like, I don't know what to do with this, and it was like 30 minutes before the show, and yeah, I was just an absolute mess. I slept poorly. I was almost in a car accident yesterday. I'm just like freaking the fuck out.
Okay, run us through that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's talk about car accident first.
Let's talk about car accident.
We did vitamin talk, now car accident.
Yeah, so basically, I got my license like a couple months ago. Not the most experienced driver by any means. I'm not the best driver. I like being in my lane and just like driving my lane and not have to worry about everything else. But essentially, I was stuck at literally the worst intersection in Los Angeles, and I was forced to take like an unprotected left or something across a lane or something, and I sat at this fucking intersection for, I swear to God, like 4.5 minutes. I got two people honking behind me because I'm not turning and doing this unprotected left, and so I freaked the fuck out. I tried to do something cheeky, didn't work out. People start honking at me because I'm like driving into the lane when I'm not supposed to, and like people behind me are honking, and it's just a fucking nightmare. And so I escaped because people have brakes, luckily, and they're good human people, but I am not. And so I am just a bit shell-shocked from that. It's an absolute mess. Here I am producing this scuffed episode of Plat Chat. Everything's great. I love you, Joss. That's it.
Johnny's life going well. That's fine, Johnny. No, that's okay. As long as you're safe, that's the main thing. I didn't really almost have an accident, but a woman in my parking lot ran a stop sign as I was about to turn. She must have been 90 something. I don't know. She might have been deaf, maybe, because I like screeched to a halt, hit my fucking like boop, 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 little horn, and she just didn't react at all, and just carried on through the stop sign.
So like her horn sounds like Morse code.
That was not you, Joss. I made a mistake. Whereas
Johnny says that he was the villain of his story. He was the villain.
Everybody else was a mistake. You were fine.
To be fair, unprotected left turns are the worst type of left turn out there, and they suck. And doing it in LA, I remember when we went up for World Cup in 2019,
never get a car with
had
ZP.
to do an unprotected left turn. And we were like, I can't remember where we were at, but it was like 30 minutes from like Monty's house or something like that. And like he was trying to left turn. It was clearly red. It was so red. And he just like left turned and like cut off like 3-4 people. And the light, like, they had the cameras like capturing his license plate and stuff.
Really?
Luckily, it was a rental, or unlucky, it was a rental, but he never got charged for like the tickets, supposedly. So I guess
that's good.
But like he was 100% in the right of way, and I thought I was going to die. I was so sick too. I was like sick as fuck being transported in a fugue state with ZP, and he was just like blatantly breaking every law. Literally every law on the traffic road.
Funnily enough, I also have a ZP driving story. When I first moved to the States, ZP was staying over at the Papega house. And we didn't have, we didn't have water or like hot water. So we couldn't run the...
From a ZP driving story to we didn't have water.
No. It all links together. We didn't have water for a long time. So like, luckily I was flying out to like Washington and shit and getting showers in the fucking hotel rooms. But we didn't have a washer and dryer that was working because we didn't have hot water or like water. So ZP would like drive us to the laundromat, which was down the road. And it was me, Jake, Wyatt, Kurt, and me, and me and ZP in the car. And ZP definitely pulled past a fucking red light, did exactly the same thing, didn't see the red light or something. And he's the most offensive driver in the fucking world. And yeah, we almost hit 2 cars, and then everybody decided to walk home with their freshly cleaned washing instead of taking the car home to ZP. Although I gambled, I flipped a fucking coin. I was like, fuck it, dude. I'm not walking back my washing.
What the
I flipped the coin.
with you and flipping coins?
I don't know. And then I took the car back with ZP. We didn't die. Everybody had to walk back their washing. But yeah, more of the story is ZP, maybe. Well, he's got new glasses now, so maybe he can't see red lights. But
yeah, maybe he can see better
funny,
now. I don't know what his current
ZP driving.
You guys actually made me feel better because in some way I feel like I'm not the only one. Even though it's just me and CP that make driving mistakes, I do feel like, you know, because I feel better. I'm not alone in making mistakes.
Well, see, but yours was a legitimate issue as well because unprotected left turns when it's like a crazy intersection suck ass, which is always why if I have to do that, I would rather just right turn and go to a different street than deal with an unprotected left. But like, that's different than like just clearly running red lights, which is what ZP did on his unprotected left turn.
Fair enough.
He just totally mistimed the turn, so it was a fucking disaster.
I'm not worried about me in my story. I'm just worried about the people who had to brake. You know, like maybe what if someone was pregnant and they had to like emergency brake or something, and maybe I don't know.
What do you mean?
I fucked up.
You fucked up, but then everybody in LA sucks at driving.
I don't understand what the pregnant. Are you thinking the baby's gonna eject?
Oh.
I don't understand. Like, what's the pregnant port? Are you think the baby's gonna eject like a jet,
shook
like
or
a
something.
fighter jet?
I wanted to apologize. I wanted to like send flowers to them and be like
the cockpit opens and the fucking seat shoots out and it's just like the I don't exactly know where you're going with that.
Something like that.
Okay.
All right.
Johnny, don't worry. You're not in the wrong. You're not in the fucking wrong, okay? You're in the right. Everybody in LA sucks at driving.
Yeah, we probably should talk about Overwatch, I guess, at some point, right?
Overwatch time. Yeah, so Boston Uprising came out with some news just like 20, 30 minutes ago or something.
I'll show the tweet.
Yeah, show the tweet. Show the tweet.
Show the tweet. There we go.
It's crazy.
Tweet show.
It's before Overwatch. Podcast, sorry. Pat Chat podcast. Jesus Christ, what am I saying? It's before the podcast, which is normally something that doesn't happen. Normally it's after. But yeah, Laurie gets let go from the Boston Uprising. And I think Laurie's been in... we've been talking about Laurie for the last couple of weeks, and like Boston Uprising shift to like Mag instead of Punk, and yeah, this seems like a little bit of a surprise.
Did anyone see the Crimzo tweets? Did anyone see the Crimzo tweets?
No.
He had the gifs of him getting out of jail. Like, I think and then all the people memeing about Punk winning, you know, like I do think if we had Custa here right now, this would be an immediate Custa rant. Yeah. This would be an immediate Custa rant. So I'll do it for him. Okay. I'll do it for him. This is yet another case of, and it's not malicious necessarily. It's just a comfort thing, I think, for many coaches. There's another case of all the Western players felt like they were hard benched by the Korean players because the head coach wanted a Korean roster. And I think all the Boston players were probably very, like Crimzo and Punk were probably frustrated with that. And now that they're gone, they're feeling like freedom's about to occur. But what does this actually mean for the team? Like, who knows? Because I mean, I'll say, though, regardless of the topic, Laurie, he had a lot of hype coming in for Contenders. I don't think at any point he ever showed that Contenders coaching chops in Overwatch League while he was with Boston. Ever. I don't think he ever lived up to, like, what people were expecting of him, other than the ability to, like, bring many of those Korean players he coached to Boston. Anyone disagree with that?
No, I mean, you're right. I want to say that, like... Part of me wants to say that, like, with Laurie, they had like an identity of not like making too many mistakes, of like trying to play smart and like trying to put it together. But I'm like, they never fucking achieved anything. So like, what does that matter? Like, what's their identity? I can't tell you like what they were. They were just
lost
a solid team that didn't really achieve anything. Like that doesn't mean anything, you know. So at the end of the day, like if you don't get the results, like it's not good enough. So, and
it was beyond not getting results too, right, Johnny? They were bad. They were like bad for large portions of his tenure too.
Yeah. I mean, they were. I feel like the Boston Uprising definitely haven't achieved as much as they wanted to this season. I mean, they're 5-12, which is like, you know, Costa was really hard on the Boston Uprising going into it with the preseason power rankings, right? I had some kind of belief. I thought they'd be more like the Florida Mayhem, like 7-9, you know? I didn't think they'd be 5-12. So yeah, it's a bit of an underachievement. We know that Boston Uprising, I think that they've made a lot of moves this year. Like if you just look at all the like transfers and like roster moves, and like they have really tried to improve in some kind of way. So I'll always appreciate a franchise like trying to bring about change and trying to improve in that kind of way. They just haven't had the results. So I guess it sort of was time for Laurie to go. Going back to like this stage though, I'm like, yeah, hindsight is 2020. Would they have been much better with Punk instead of Mag in the lineup? How good would Crimso have been if he was in instead of MCD or like whatever, Like I feel like it's a bit of a hindsight in 2020. Like I don't know how much better they'd be with the Western players in their roster. So I can't really blame them for, it sounds sensible in a way to bring about an all-Korean 5-man roster, right? In a very team synergy kind of meta as well. So I know it's very funny to just look at the Punk win-loss numbers and be like, Punk should be in the lineup because this. But at the same time, I don't feel like I can truly blame them for like trying it out this stage in this kind of meta.
I mean, the team has just had no success, since like 2018?
I mean, they've had moments of success here and there, I think.
Small moments. Yeah, I'm looking at their like...
Yeah. They haven't really had any moments.
But they haven't...
They've had moments where they've looked okay.
Sure, okay, they got play-ins last year, but other than that, it's like nothing. And Laurie's been on the team since when? 2020?
2020, well, so like 2
2020,
years.
Yeah, okay, it's right here, yeah. 2020,
so, yeah.
At the end of 2020. So it's that he was there for the 2021 season and the 2022 season then. And it's just they made the tournament a couple of times, but the amount of changes in the roster, you'd think that they'd find a little bit more. Like how are they just so consistently 9th, 10th, that kind of placing when they've had so many different players move through their roster either onto other teams or like just leave and then go to nothing or like fucking retire. It just doesn't make sense to me at all.
So bring players. I think also the other thing too is that there's not even an argument to necessarily be made that they had like poor players the whole time for this run either, because Laurie brought over players like Valentine and stuff like that. They had Faith, who's been honestly even on a poorly performing Boston Uprising, like still has always looked pretty decent. Yep. Like they got Punk, who's had like an overall pretty decent career from what we've been able to see, and like has looked pretty solid. Like they got Crimso from like a decently performing Houston Outlaws, but they got benched. Like they managed to get Striker back somehow.
Yeah,
and
for like 2 months.
And then he left.
Yeah, and then he left.
They barely played.
And then they got Mag, who's also like, obviously I wouldn't say his stocks have been as high, but like they haven't been working. Like this is not like a Paris Eternal tier roster in terms of like what they've been working with, It just hasn't been.
But let me ask you that then. Like looking at their roster, like where do you like what should their results be for you to be like, oh, this is a roster that is like performing to like what I expect them to? Because I look at this roster and I'm like, yeah, there's some good pieces here, but like you actually have to be a pretty good team to be competitive these days. Just looking at like the middle of the pack team in the Western region,
sure.
Just like Florida Mayhem, they stand out because they have a great coaching staff, and I really think like they're playing above their kind of level. But like Toronto Defiant, like can you realistically compete with Toronto Defiant? The money they're pumping in. London Spitfire has had amazing coaching this year. Washington Justice, like Boston Uprising, to compete with those teams, I still feel like it's a difficult task. I wouldn't just looking at their roster. I wouldn't.
Well, I mean, they're pretty much they're competing with the Spitfire tier of teams, like teams that and like. They're definitely fighting for that tier of like the Spitfire, like Mayhem, like etc. Like those people that are on the edge of like plans often, that like can make tournaments, like the lower end. Like they're fighting. I would say their roster strength on paper is like because especially with like the coaching pedigree that Laurie had coming out of contenders, where people thought like, oh, Laurie's a great coach, like Laurie's gonna help bring this team up. They should have been aiming pretty consistently for like a 7th, 8th spot in North America.
Yeah. To caveat that though, looking at their schedule over the last 2 qualifiers. So if you look at Summer Showdown, Boston Uprising, they played Atlanta in week 1 and they won. They played London, they lost, which London looking like a pretty good team. Played Shock, they lost. Played Dallas, they lost. Played Toronto, they lost. Like these are really good teams. They're going to play Vancouver next, which is this weekend upcoming. And then you go to Mid-Season Madness, which the tournament they didn't make either. They also had a quite a tough schedule again. Atlanta Reign, shock, then they beat Paris. Then they had Florida Mayhem, which was a close map 5. I'd expect Boston to win that, though. And then they also had a close game versus the Houston Outlaws. Like, their strength of schedule going over the last 2 tournaments has been actually really hard, considering they've had to play Shock twice. Like, Atlanta Reign. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they could realistically, like, have an opportunity to get 4 wins of their remaining matches. Like, I'm not saying they're going to win them, especially the current form where they're like pretty bad. But like Vancouver Titans, Florida Mayhem, New York Excelsior, Paris Eternal, these are teams they should be competing with, and like, you know, realistically go like 3-1 against teams of that caliber. So I think if you actually look at like their season so far, I think if they qualify for play-ins, that's like mission accomplished. I know you want to achieve more. I know you guys want to like directly qualify for playoffs. Like, of course, everyone wants to win. But like realistically, looking at their roster, they need to qualify for play-ins, and they need to at least be competitive and almost make it to playoffs. But if they miss the play-ins, that's where I'm like, yo, something's seriously fucked up.
Something's wrong. Like, they should, Boston Uprising with the roster they have, they should be making play.
Yeah.
They should be.
So
I agree.
Yeah.
So what, and also we have to, I think when we contextualize the conversation about Boston too, like what is Boston going to be moving forward? Because technically this is still Huck's Boston essentially that's being
true.
reformed. Huck got released recently. The president of gaming was impeached, sent out of office, and you know, the gaming secret service, I don't know if they followed him as well. And now they've been slowly, Lori was part of that initial like Huck, like that Huck mineral regime. You know, regime sounds a little dictatory, but like it's still like that's a different era of Boston. And now like Mineral's fully in charge, and now they promoted Askoff to head coach with Lori departing. Like, what's even Boston's direction moving forward, right? What do they hope to do? I feel like at this stage of the year, you're not hoping for much more other than hoping you have a decentish end of year and filling out and figuring out like what you can do with your roster that you have.
Okay,
currently.
so like, let's play that game then. Like, how would you like, where would you go with this Boston Uprising team moving forward? So like, looking at the roster right now, they picked up Seeker, with Turn of Age, of course, Canadian damage player. They have Crimso, they have Punk, and then they have like 6 Korean players, including Itzal is on a 2-way contract. But like, where do you go with this one? Because I'll say this. With Paris Eternal becoming like Las Vegas Eternal as well next year, allegedly, by their own Twitter, so I guess it's not a rumor. They are going to pick up or like focus on getting some North American talent themselves. And then you have teams already like that have picked up all these North American talents, like Speedily for Atlanta Reign, you know, Kalush, San Francisco Shock, Reiner, etc. Like, so maybe like most of the Overwatch League caliber talent is already like been picked up from North American contenders. And then like, do you actually look towards Korean contenders? Do you think there's more talent there? Like, how do you rebuild this franchise with like a sensible direction of like acquiring talent? Because I guess I'm a little bit worried of like, I don't know where the actual like tier 2 talent is, and like to be able to pick up enough Overwatch League caliber players to be able to compete with some of these other teams. Like, where is the talent? How should you try to rebuild this team?
Well, you can go one of 2 ways, right? I mean, they have they can run a full Korean team, which you've seen, and then they also have like half of a Western team too. It depends. I think letting go some of the Korean players might be a bad idea. Like, the Valentine also has been looking pretty decent, I would say. And not Valentine. Who the fuck am I thinking of?
Victoria?
No. Yeah, no, I'm thinking Valentine. Valentine's been looking pretty decent. It's kind of his meta though with the Genji. But I would like Seeker to maybe come in and play. He's been a player that's been around for a long time in tier 2. And honestly, as soon as you get back to like an Ana meta as well, I think the team is probably just going to shift all towards like a half Korean, half Western roster. I think they have the pieces already, honestly, Johnny. I don't think they need to pick up anybody or shift anybody around. Right. I don't know.
I think this is
if anybody else kind of thinks the same thing, but it seems like as soon as you hit like an Ana meta, Crimso's going to fucking clap like he always does. I think maybe, I don't know what Askoff's going to do, but I would love to see the comparison between Punk and Mag, because Mag's been doing pretty decently, but like I thought Punk's Junker Queen was very good, even in their like games against the Shark and shit like that. It wasn't bad at all. It did show up, and I think that's maybe where they want to shift towards without Laurie being in the head coach position. Because we talked about this before where we were like, okay, who's going to play? And then we kind of all said like, oh, they probably might just go full Korean here and just put Mag in. Now they've picked him up because it was a bit of a weird pickup at this stage in the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably, it also depends on like what it's really like what their coaching staff they keep too. Because like if Askov stays, I can imagine they maybe still keep a mixed roster environment, but perhaps they like stick more with their Western focus. Seeker just I think turned 18.
Yeah,
so we could see like some of Seeker getting played a bit. So it's really up in the air. I mean, I kind of agree with your point, Johnny, that like I feel like Contenders has been picked clean of like the current. It's not to say that the talent isn't there, that they can't eventually get there, right? Because like they play at the Overwatch League level, but of the existing talent in Contenders, I wouldn't really argue that any of them are going to come in and immediately pop off, right? Like I think there's going to be talented players there, but they need to grow, which is fine because I think a lot of times we think of rosters a little too immediate. Which like sure, there's lots of players that can immediately enter Overwatch League and be great, like AK like speedily, right? But it's not the case for like every player, and it doesn't mean those players are bad. It just means they need some time to grow, and maybe that's where Boston goes moving forward. I mean, I also don't even think that Mag was necessarily like. I think that Mag had a worse individual performance, but I'm gonna be real. I don't think Boston would have won any of these games this week, even with Punk.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like I said, the schedule is pretty tough. Like
the schedule's hard, and also when you look at their overall performance, like I guess it depends on how much of a influence Punk is on those comms, right? Like maybe Punk would have like changed up their comm structure a bit, but also like Valentine Victoria, like they had some okay moments and they had some bad moments, and like you need the really consistent DPS performance, I think, to also get along with team coordination to get a lot of value in this meta. And like their overall roster just wasn't built to beat some of the teams they were playing, regardless of Mag or not. But I do think Punk was definitely the better overall Jungle Queen player. So
yeah,
I'm hoping Boston goes for a route where they choose to utilize some of the North American talent still and just try to build them, and then hopefully get some key Korean like imports and keep that mixed roster vibe, because I think it's a very cool vibe they're going for. It's just clearly they haven't been managed very well at times in terms of like their coaching structure and like how they're building the roster and like the expectations.
Yeah, no, I definitely think they have the talent. I think this honestly like is a good roster that with good coaching could actually be competitive in some stages and in some metas. So yeah, I'm interested to see where they go in like the coaching direction going next. I could obviously just like Askov becomes the new head coach for like the rest of the year. In the announcement they said that Askov is the new.
Yeah, he is the head coach, and I doubt they'll make a big change this late in the year, like adding another coach, right?
No,
like it just probably, and Askov's been with them for a long time, so I bet they just try to let him build, like just run the roster for this year. And see what happens. Maybe
so from what I've heard, like the management was pretty strict inside, like pretty disciplined, so to speak. And so if that was a problem for the team in like substitutions and like assigning roles, and even like making, this is me speculating by the way, but like, if the players felt like they were maybe like creatively limited to a very like strict kind of environment, or because you have some players in the league who just like they just like honestly just like dive in and kind of like suicide, because they have that they don't feel as like restricted to sit back and like play with their team, not as passive. Like they're willing to take risks, is how I'm trying to say. Like some players are willing to take risks, and sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. I feel like Boston Uprising in most cases were a team that like tried to shy away from risks, or like doing very like erratic kind of plays, or like spontaneous kind of actions. So you need your players to kind of like be creatively encouraged to be able to play the game their way, feel like they have input within the team, not block out all the Western players, be like, hey, we're just gonna run the Koreans, sorry guys, because like that's a very like demotivating kind of way to be part of a team, right? So I hope Askov can sort of like bring this team together and like almost like Outr said with the Gladiators, like, hey, we're just trying to like have fun, like we're trying to teach these guys like Kevster and stuff to just like have fun with the game and have fun in this team environment and really enjoy like pursuing winning Overwatch. And I hope the case is similar for the Boston Uprising for like the remainder of the year. Like I hope the team comes together. It's like a mix of Western that are on the team and a mix of Korean players, and like, hey, what do you guys want to try? Like, maybe we'll do some wonky strategy, because I think it's pretty obvious that so far they've been pretty strict in terms of the compositions. We're going to substitute out these players on these maps. We're going to sub in these players on this map because of that. And I'm like, no, like, just get a bit loose. Maybe that takes some pressure off the players, and maybe that like makes for a better team environment. It makes the player feel more comfortable in their own play. So I think that could do a lot of I think they could do a lot of good for some of these players, just like imagining like the team environment and the situation they've been in. I'd like to take some of that pressure off and just like let them have fun moving forward for the rest of the year, and maybe they'll make them pop off a little. So that's my psychological rant of the day.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good one, and you kind of touched on it there, Johnny, about how it's kind of demoralizing and demotivating if they're going to go, okay, we should only run Korean players, because we're at a stage. We're not going to be in this stage for long, but the players that aren't playing actively in scrims can't play the game outside of playing Overwatch 1 and playing Overwatch 1 ranked.
Yeah, so imagine you're told,
a lot of players
we're just
still
playing Koreans. You can't practice. You're not part of strategy, anything.
It's tough. Like a lot of players, and like I see like small little videos and snippets every time, every day even, of like, especially on like the Korean servers and stuff, like all the pros like still playing in ranked, except like rank 1 status, a lot of them at this point. And it's not really the same over here, where like the ranked experience, from my experience at least, is pretty rough at the moment. And yeah, so it's an extra level of like demoralization, but that won't be for long. Obviously, Overwatch 2 is just around the corner. Right. Speaking of crazy things on the timeline, bring it up, Johnny. Have you got it?
Wait,
you might have it, you might not.
I don't know. I don't have the topic list in front of me.
That's fine. London, Spitfire, and Rain beefing on the timeline.
Oh.
Social media managers going at each other. Other players stepping in, smacking people around. Yeah. So London, Spitfire, and Rain, if anybody didn't see, had a little altercation on the timeline. It looked. It was quite funny. It was quite funny. It's good to see like banter backwards and forwards, but yeah. Do you want me to link you, Johnny? Are you good? You good?
Yeah, find the link. I mean, do you want to? The people are pissed about it because of the controversy behind the vitriol of the tweets, right?
Yeah.
There really is no controversy, except if you think they're being too hateful. If the London Spitfire people are being too dogged in their attempts to, funny joke, because their tweet that people didn't like included a dog.
Yeah.
I think that's like the real conversation. This is like I feel like this is more of a filler bit, right? We should talk for like 10 minutes, because I feel like Boston drug on for a bit and then like move on from here. But I just wanted to include this because I thought it was funny. It's like, what's the barometer? Was this too far? Was it too far? I don't think it was, personally. I thought it was perfectly fine, added some spice, and I don't think anything was like, I feel like it was just people getting it twisted.
It was. I definitely feel like it was people getting it twisted. And London replied to their own tweet saying, also, I don't know where anyone's come in with the attack and personal appearance thing. Like, people have used like dog player as in to describe like bad players for like a long time, and I don't see how it was kind of directed as like a personal attack.
Okay.
Do you have the?
I think it was. Yeah, I have the tweet up. I think it was a shitty tweet from a Spitfire, because maybe I'm stupid, or like I didn't get it at first. So like the tweet obviously was happy like National Dog Day, and what I'm assuming what they meant by that tweet was like, oh, your players are bad, you know, like dog
just
shit,
joking,
dog water,
like
what have you.
Yeah, dog water, whatever, like poking fun.
I was like, is there a dog in this picture? What's with the zeros? Like, I didn't.
And I think that's where people went like, alright, Johnny, they kind of were in your shoes. What does this mean? Are they saying they look like dogs, or are they saying they got that dog in them, or are they saying they're like dog water, kind of like they're bad kind of deal? And I think that's where it kind of got misconstrued, and it just kind of spiraled out of control from there.
Yeah. What do you think about as an observer of this drama?
I mean, I already said my piece. I thought it was like overblown. I will say it is. I think London Spitfire are clearly trying to push the beef with the Rain, but like it gets you clicks, and the Rain players clearly get fucking pissed every time they make a tweet about them instead of just like laughing it off. Like, guys, you're all getting paid probably like triple what the Spitfire guys have played. What do you even care? Like, what do you even care what they say on social media? Every single person on the Spitfire on the Rain is probably making like triple the London player salaries. Like, if I was getting made fun of on Twitter while my team is still like doing pretty decently, overall, and I get paid more, I would just be like, okay, well, I'm gonna laugh into my money now, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think people are just way too sensitive about this shit. Like, it's just teams beef. I don't think they'd cross the line at all, like in any way. So
I think the last thing we'll kind of make on it before we talk about it before we end up moving on is I think this was a discussion that we had quite a while ago. Maybe it was even last year about personalities of players and teams and stuff, like not really being there and like, oh, we want more BM, but then when BM happens, like there's there's a group of people that doesn't like that kind of thing, and like, go on, Johnny, go on.
So
go on.
I would be completely for this London Spitfire Atlanta Reign drama, what have you, especially following, it's not coming home, the Masa incident, when he stepped off the point. London Spitfire, they were dog last year, if anything. But I just feel like this quote unquote rivalry has just been like the London Spitfire social media manager versus the Atlanta Reign, and that just personally that just doesn't make me excited about this drama or anything, because it doesn't. Because I don't think, like, when I'm watching this match, I don't think, like, oh my god, I can't wait to see what Hadi is going to write in, like, match chat, or, like, how Sparker feels about how he diffed Kai, or, like, something like that. No, I'm just like, what the fuck is the London Spitfire social media manager going to tweet at the Atlanta Reign? And are people on competitive Overwatch just gonna, like, have a laugh about it? And, like, that's not a rivalry to me. That's just, like, engagement farming. Like, Am I in the wrong here? I feel like when we say that we want these rivalries, when we want these, when
it has to originate
to banter and stuff. Yeah, between the players, between the teams. But as far as I know, the entire like drama between these two teams that stemmed from the beginning of the season, the London Spitfire management and coaching and everything, they came out and was like, this was like a scheduling scrim mistake, And so they like cleared it up. They were like, hey, don't be upset at Atlanta Reign, don't be upset at Lone Spitfire, like it was a mistake, whatever. So they almost like cleared themselves of the drama, and then they haven't taken part of any of the drama, and it's just been the Lone Spitfire social media manager like bagging on the Atlanta Reign. So I don't really feel like, I just feel like it's unnecessary. Like if the Lone Spitfire players and staff, like all chat wants to go, banter, like I'm all for it. That's gonna be a lot of fun. But
it's like it needs to originate.
Yeah, I don't know.
It needs to originate in match chat between the players or whatever. Like, I'll tell you who's very good at doing that, Hunter. Yeah, a lot of the time on broadcast, you can't see what's in match chat, or like sometimes it disappears too quickly or whatever. But like, dude, seeing the Glads after a win or like whatever, or after someone types BM is always fucking Hunter. Hunter's on the fucking keyboard smashing it. It's funny as fuck. No, that is good. Yeah, it's grass-fed, organic, like banter BM in the fucking server.
Yeah, and also because teams like the other teams, they're almost like affected by it. So for example, when the Toronto Defiant they beat the LA Gladiators, and I think it was Aldo in the interview after, just like bye the LA Gladiators or something like that.
Yeah, that shit was so
and
funny.
They said like we didn't want to get beat by the LA Gladiators because they always like talk trash in the match chat. Like that's fucking great. I love that. Toronto Defiant, their motivation to not lose to the Glads was because they didn't want to get trash talked in match chat. That's fucking amazing. All right.
Oh, and the Twilight tweet as well, the haircut tweet.
Exactly.
I booked an appointment at the salon.
That's
I needed
great.
to win.
Love that.
All right, we're not gonna spend too much time on this, but we'll continue to talk about the Reign. Of course, if you didn't watch the games over the last week or last weekend, Speedly was playing because he just turned 18. Plus Vigilante, who came from the Washington Justice. How do you feel Speedly performed in the games?
I think he popped off. That guy, I think Speedily owned. I think he started off kind of slow in his first match. Like he was good, but he wasn't incredible. I think as it went on, like I was noticing that guy farms blades. That guy farms blades hella fucking fast. Like it is insane how strong. I don't know if it's really. I'm not going to compare him to like any of the Genji goats yet currently in Overwatch League because of all their time. But like his neutral game is really really good on the Genji, which is like really important in this meta. And how you're following up with your team damage, which I felt like helped Reign a lot, was like he was much more consistently. I think just his overall mechanics and the level of his dashes and like just putting himself in positions to get ult was insanely good. Just like amazingly good. And on top of that, he looks like he's ready to file my taxes. Like he's like he didn't go through an awkward teenager stage and growing up. He's like 18 and he looks like he's like 30. Like this man, he's a man. Like Speed, I just noticed that immediately. It's like, because I remember when I was 18, I feel like I was a dorky looking dweeb, like still in my gaggly phase. And Speedo was like, damn, this guy is like grown up. This dude is like grown.
He's got more hair on his chest than all three of us put together, I think.
Sorry, Jaws, I'm
probably.
producing. You talk.
That's that's fine. That's good. No, I think Speedly, I agree with you, Connor. I think he started off kind of slow. There were definitely times where like he would dash in and it felt like it kind of reminded me the way some contenders players play in contenders and then they move up to the league. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna big dick literally everybody, and then you're like, holy fuck, okay, they're very good at peeling, they're very good at kiting. Like this is a whole new level of kind of Overwatch play. And there was a few times at the very beginning where he was going in and just dying randomly. I'm like, holy shit, that was like hyper aggressive compared to the team you're like playing against. But then as he kind of found his groove and like found out how much he could push the boundaries of like his aggression and like you mentioned, Connor, his like neutral game, it felt like he's ramping up. And I think over the next few weeks Rain to the tournament, like holy fuck, Rain in a playoff scenario plus Speedly, like finding his groove and finding how much he can test the limits is gonna fucking pound. Like that kid's gonna go crazy. It might be, and honestly, a fucking hyped up game when he does eventually reach not his peak or anything, but like when he really gets up there, him versus Proper would be a fucking gigabyte. Like holy fuck, that would be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, even him versus Pelican for the Houston Outlaws this past week was like an insane match as well. A couple of things. The neutral game, like we have this internal stat tool as well, and it's like, you know, live match stats or whatever. There were like so many times where Speedly would have like the most damage per 10 minutes that I've like ever seen by a Genji or something. Like he would consistently just be up at like 12,000 damage per 10 minutes, which is like numbers that's like pretty hard to get to usually. And this is just I don't have like a great reference, but usually like Genjis, they sit between like, you know, 8 and 10, maybe 10,000 damage per 10 minutes, and you know you film blades pretty quickly. Speedily was like always pushing the limits, like 11, 12, sometimes even 13,000 damage per 10 minutes. Nuts numbers for a Genji. It always felt like he was just like a presence in the fights. And I this was something I pointed out a lot like this past week. When you want to look at the front lines of the teams, you actually don't really want to look at the jungle queens as much because they're not really like diving in. It's actually like the Genji who's diving in and sort of like being the front line when the fights kick off, and then like you reflect to buy time for your team to engage with you, and of course you want to dash in to finish off some of these kills as well. It felt like Speedly was such a presence when it came to that, and the way he was able to dash in at like the perfect times to like get frags to finish off people. One of the better Genjis in the entire league. So I think him versus Pelican was like a really entertaining Genji battle, and I'm looking forward to see him play against like Proper and Kevster in the future. I thought it was a really good Genji. The only thing was like the Dragon Blades that you also pointed out, and especially in the series against the normal Spitfire, I think he struggled at first to like how deep can I go with my Dragon Blades, or is my team going to have my back? He certainly fed quite a bit with his Dragon Blades in the first series, but I think that improved over the weekend. So yeah, I think Speedly is a fantastic Genji player in the Western region, and we have like quite a lot of good Genji. So you know, it's not to put anyone else down, but I really do think that Speedly is like in the same kind of tier as Pelican when it comes to Genji play anyway. For the other heroes, you know, well, we're yet to see, but yeah.
So perfect time to kind of add him to the roster and him to turn 18 is in a
yeah. I mean, if they qualify, dude, I could see them getting like top 3 at the event again. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the Rain do sick stuff in the tournaments, that's for sure. What do we think about Vigilante? Of course, he came from the Washington Justice, who have been kind of like half dissolving their roster. So he joined the team rather recently, and he's been playing like a ton.
He's good.
He's good.
He's a very good player. He's a very good player. I think it's a shame because I really liked Ultraviolet on flex support. He was like clearly a difference maker at points for this team. It's just his Brigida currently hasn't been in this meta in particular, just hasn't been like as amazing, I think. But Vigilante's Brigida looks really good. I mean, he's there at the right moments. He's hitting the whip shots. The packs are good. He's like not out of position too much. The cooldown usage is good. Like, I mean, overall, just it's good. Like Vigilante's Brigida is very, very nice. It's clear why why he was hyped up coming out of contenders, and why he was such a big pickup for Justice, even though technically he couldn't play for half the season. So
this is actually such a sick roster now with Spilo and Vigilante on it. It's just a shame that they lost to Boston Uprising in the first match of the Summer Showdown. Because if they had beat Boston Uprising, they actually wouldn't have to beat LA Gladiators to qualify for the tournament. I really would have liked to see Atlanta Rain in the tournament. I think they're a sick roster right now.
Yeah, the only thing I did kind of worry about was that your backline does need to be so strong in this meta, and like being on the same page with like your Lucio, and obviously OG and Ultraviolet have been playing for a long time together. And I did kind of worry how Vigilante would slot in, but I think it's fine. I think he's doing pretty good. He's a very good Brig player. And I think when this meta shifts away from Brig, maybe we'll see more Brig, not sure. But they've got an incredibly flexible backline too now. They've got a very good Lucio player. And they can have Ultraviolet back on like Ana or even a Zen or like something crazy, and Vigilante can come in, play Brig, and yeah, it's a very exciting time, I think, to be a Rain fan, especially with Speedly coming of age. And then they also have like a hyperflex in Nero, who can also jump back on the May or like anything else that Speedly doesn't end up playing. So yeah, it's Rain. If they do make it to the tournament, they're going to do pretty well, I think. Speaking of Vigilante and the Justice blowing up, what do we think about their fucking team now? Because, dude, they blow up half their fucking roster and then they start doing well. It's like, okay, well, great. Like, what was going on here? Hang on a second.
It's one of the most interesting teams in the league. Like, I just can't get over the Washington Justice and how they got to this point. So they beat Toronto Spitfire, lost in map 5 to the Vancouver Titans, but they got 3 wins. They're pretty much going to make the Summer Showdown tournament. You know, you got 3 wins. Yeah. Like you're pretty much set. Especially since like teams that are like 2 and 4 are trying to get in. Costa talked some about this, how like, you know, when there's not like substitute, etc., like there's less pressure on the players. Because like now you're just in this situation, there's no subs going to happen. You know you're going to have your spot in the team. You probably feel less pressure, as in like how like the expectations on your team and the expectations on you as a player because of the new environment. So this release of pressure, Costa argued that, you know, that's going to be a huge benefit for this team. Actually, they are confirmed qualified, so, you know, they're not even at risk of falling out. So, I mean, the one player that stood out for me on the Washington Justice is just like Assassin. Like, it feels like Assassin is finally flourishing in the Overwatch League, and this is sort of what we waited for so long. He had some good performances last year, but if you think back to last year, everyone's just going to meme about the Memps. It was all about the EMPs, you know, a complete lack of confidence in himself as stage 3, stage 4 came around last year, and how he just like completely fell apart. He became like a mean player. People made fun of him. And I just love this redemption story that Assassin has been on now. He's doing fantastic on the Genji. We knew that Genji was in his wheelhouse. There just hasn't been any Genji medals for him to really flourish on that hero in the Overwatch League. The stats, you know, they don't lie. He was like top 2 in all of the categories except for deaths. He died quite a lot, but overall, like, this is his meta. Genjis are super important, and I think Assassin has a great Genji. He's done some individual mistakes sometimes. Like, sometimes he'll position himself where he's not in line of sight for like his supports, and he'll just like left out to dry. But when the Assassin feeds, then Decay will step in and like find picks when you least expect it. And, like, Decay is doing a great job on the Sojourn. I'm happy for the Washington Justice. That's all I can say. I'm happy for the Washington Justice that they're getting these results. The players, considering the situation they've been put in. It's just nice to not just like disregard or meme about the Washington Justice anymore, because they've been through it the past 1.5 years.
Yeah, they're I mean, I think the funny part about the Justice is that this is like, it just, to me, it mirrors their entire history, where they're like mediocre to ass, and then some ridiculous event occurs and they suddenly get a lot better. Like, let's talk about GOATs. And then meta changes, and then they're like, oh shit, we're pounding with Saniel Sam now. Like, we're pounding with Sam and Corey and them, like, right? Like, in the last stage. Like, oh, man, we're not too good. Wait, what's that? We essentially abuse a contract loophole and sign Decay for the stage 4 and heading to playoffs, and then the meta shifts, and we're fucking amazing. Like, and now we're getting here. It's like, oh, what's this? Our entire financial plan that we've supposedly reviewed before the year was actually bullshit, and we're gonna blow up the whole roster. and we're gonna get away, and we're actually gonna offload a lot of like our very good players. Oh, that's fine. We're doing really good now, and the meta shifted. So to me, the justice is like I don't even know. It's so frustrating because they're like good and they have good players, but it always happens when it shouldn't. It should be done. It should be over, and then they get the second life and they just are reborn in a fiery poo phoenix is what the term I use. I call them a poo phoenix of sorts. Instead of it being flames, it's just unimaginable amounts of like dumb shit, but it's like still magnificent and glorious, and the play is really good at times.
So by history standards, you think they're just gonna keep this roster and like, oh, this roster is doing great, we'll just continue like this next year, we'll pick up?
No, I don't think so, because they moved pre.
He's an advisor now or something,
he's no longer a GM for the team. He's like an advisor for like a high level advisor, and he said he's going to be evaluating his like what he wants to do moving forward. So because like as much like, even though I think people give him Pre shit, I think Pre has done a good job with trying to build. He's done a good of a job as he can trying to build rosters, I think, and like working to make justice, because also GMing is more than just building a roster. There's a lot of aspects to a GMing, to GMs, and in terms of like helping cultivate your fan base, helping build your organizational like staff and ops and stuff, and all your various partnerships. Now, granted, I think a lot of people misattribute a GM should be getting partnerships for your team. That's not necessarily true. That's really kind of false on most levels, but Justice maybe Justice had Pre in a much more partnerships level. But I like their roster currently. I find it unlikely based off their direction, because also what happened to all the rumors that they were going to get like team peps, like what happened there? Like, to me, it's probably, I bet they were evaluating that option and they're like, wait a minute, we have to get visas or play remotely versus just like keeping the talented players we have and just like going super budget and sticking it out. I think they stick out with this roster probably through the rest of the year, and then they reformulate for next year is my guess. Especially because Kalios legitimately, I also think the K's had a kind of a pretty good return to form at points alongside Assassin. I think the K's actually had some pretty good moments in the upcoming matches. And Kalios, I think, is like rated #1 statistically on Junker Queen.
He tweeted out himself. Yeah, he's like #1 Junker Queen in most statistics right now.
Kalios do play.
It's a little insane. I love Kalios's arc as well as like a player throughout his career. He joined the league. He obviously was on Boston with you, Connor. And then the next year, OD, next year, Trials, and then Contenders, and then straight back to the Overwatch League. Like, his arc as a player has been kind of crazy, and I can't name a single other player that's done that exact run where they've been in the league and then they've just dropped straight to like tier 3, tier 2, back to tier 1 to Overwatch League. Like, it's been ridiculous, and I think he's been pretty good. And like, you can tell he's been through the ringer. You know what I mean? You can tell these players that have been around for a long time, that just look, they're decent and they always have been, but they just need to be given a chance, and that's what they have right now. And I'm looking forward to how they do in the Summer Showdown.
Yeah.
Although this meta looks extremely good for like Toronto does fuel and shit like that, but like I like the way Paris are going. I give a lot of
out,
I give a lot of merit to what Scott said too, I will say. And like, your fear as a player not being dropped, and you were just working together as a 5, and like, that is it. You maybe have fucking Bill from marketing or whatever the fuck, but your ability to play as a team just more consistently rather than like some people are.
It's interesting still though that like, these are the 5 players you have, and then we did an interview with DK on the Watchpoint show, and he mentioned that thing that we heard from him like a couple of years back, or maybe it was last year, where he said like, he's not confident playing long range hit scan, so Sojourn in this case. And like, he played great on Sojourn, like you pointed out to Avast. It's like, he got picks, when Assassin fed, like he made sure to turn fights around. So it's just a bit annoying, I suppose, that the K is feeling this lack of confidence in himself sometimes when he's like objectively like playing well. And I really hope he like starts to find that confidence and starts believing in himself, because it's, you always want to play with confidence. You never, like, there's no benefit to believing that you're not doing great. It might make you like work harder, but it's not going to have you play better. So I hope the K kind of finds that confidence. Talking about Kalios, like I've been saying from the start of the season that I think Kalios like played well. I think he was even good on Zarya in stage 1, when we had that Zarya meta, and they weren't they had some kind of success with Mag and Decay playing Winston Tracer and like diving. But I almost said like, hey, I want to see Kalios in this lineup because I think he's actually doing better than Mag right now. So yeah, now you have these 5 players. I wouldn't count them out. I know they just lost to Vancouver Titans in 5 maps, but I'm not gonna dismiss them like going into this tournament by any means. I think they could, if they step things up, and any given Sunday, like you could take down the Houston Outlaws, Vancouver Titans. I'm not saying they're not favorites against some of these teams, but they could definitely beat them if they just step up individually and play some better Overwatch. So I think it's going to be interesting to follow the Washington Justice moving forward. I think they have a pretty well-rounded roster, except for the fact they don't have like a main tank now without Mag. But like, I don't know what the next meta is going to be like next tournament. But they still have like Decay. They still have the Assassin, Krillin opener. That's a good backline. Like they could continue to actually, play pretty well. Qualify for play-ins. Maybe, long shot, they qualify for playoffs. And then who the fuck knows? Like, success actually cures like a lot of these issues. So, if they qualify for the end of season playoffs and they have like some kind of like hope, maybe management buys into that hope and they're like, hey, maybe let's not, just sign like minimum player salaries and like stuff like that. So who knows what's in the future for the Washington Justice, but they're playing good now and I'm happy for them.
I think we should add a secondary addendum to this, by the way, because I forgot to add to the ROS. Did we discuss already about how, I can't remember if we did it because I wasn't here last week. Did we already discuss the Jerry from accounting contract thing?
Not in depth. We mentioned it.
No, yeah, I think we mentioned it, but we didn't explicitly discuss it. So if you
we should discuss that, by the way. We should discuss that because
the floor is yours, Avast.
That now, obviously, I think there's a line here where orgs, like, people were like, I remember a lot of people were outraged when I think Grant, essentially the VP of their esports division for Justice was like, yeah, our 6th player on the roster is going to be like Jerry from accounting. It's going to be like a random org member that we're just giving a contract to meet minimum requirements for roster for Overwatch League. So the question I pose is should orgs be allowed to do that? Should they be allowed to do that?
No, of course they shouldn't be allowed. It's a dumb fucking loophole, and I hope they fix it because, I don't think anyone, I'm again speculating, guessing. I don't think anyone is happy about this kind of situation at all. It's not. I honestly don't have the insight to know if this has been done before by other teams to like.
I've never heard of it ever in the history of the Overwatch League. I've never, like, the closest are like player coach contracts.
Yeah,
I've
like the
never heard
thing at the start of the year. I don't know if.
But the thing is, it's kind of like a soft rule because people just like had the implicit, like, it's kind of like how civilization kind of exists because we all agree to live in a society, bottom text. But like, if we all chose to just not believe in society, like, society would break down, right? So that was essentially that rule, I think. Where like no one was crazy enough / desperate enough / like greedy enough or like whatever whatever the things were to like ever push that rule. And then it comes out, it's like, actually, you could just do this. And it's like, well, okay, but don't you think this maybe violates the rules of society? Like,
I think it's kind of funny that the Washington Justice clearly have the best like contracts lawyers out there right now because they did that before. They've not done this exact scenario, but they also found a loophole to sign Decay the other year. They have like the sickest fucking lawyers to find these loopholes.
I would call the Decay thing a loophole. Like, that was more like taking advantage of the rules, I think.
Sure.
I mean, that's essentially, taking advantage of the rules in a way. Obviously, it's not a loophole, right? But it's like essentially functionality.
It's just funny that they've done it. It's almost like they've done it again. And their lawyers are just sicko mode at reading contracts and reading the rules.
Yeah.
Honestly, I do not think that they teams should be able to fucking sign Jerry from accounting. But dude, if there's a fucking loophole, like, people are going to exploit it.
So here's where I kind of disagree. I'm like, if someone has the opinion that like, well, it's a loophole, the Overwatch League, quote unquote, allows it by some weird ass rule, they should do it. I'm like, okay, here's where it gets like the integrity sort of falls apart for me. It's like, well, I guess they sort of have to have this person on a salary, right? Because there's the minimum like contract obligations or whatever for the Overwatch League, and technically it's supposed to be like a player contract, right?
You're hoping they're double dipping?
No, I don't think they're double dipping. I would love to see the contract details where it says like responsibilities as a player, you must post on social media, or like you must find sponsors for a team, because I don't think that's ever been in a player contract before. Joking, but you know, the entire reason why the rule exists in the first place, or part of the reason anyway, is because it's supposed to, you know, help out the Overwatch ecosystem and bring in like tier 2 players, for example, and like giving them a chance, and like, hey, you know, like you need to sign the minimum amount of players, so, you know, we can have this amount of players in the Overwatch League. And I feel like if you skirt around that rules, well, they're going to be like tier 2 players in the Overwatch League and contenders or whatever, who are grinding the game. They're grinding the game thousands of hours. They put like their fucking teenage years into grinding this game out to get a chance of playing in the Overwatch League. And then the Washington Justice come out and just like, yeah, we're going to sign a guy from, you know, marketing or whatever, a staff member, because we don't want a 6th player. And it's like, if you're a tier 2 player, you're like, what the fuck? I worked so hard for this opportunity. I'm like one of the best players in contenders in like the actual ecosystem, and one of the top tier teams has decided not to like sign additional players. That's where I sort of feel like it goes against like part of your sort of sorry, I'm struggling to phrase this, but like if you're a team in the Overwatch League, it's in your best interest to take care of the Overwatch ecosystem, to like, you know, bring some of these players up to the league, and like giving opportunities to players around the league, and like fostering a good environment. And I feel like this move is so counterintuitive into like fostering you know, a good ecosystem for the league. So that's where it sort of like begruntles me, where I'm like, there are players who are literally like not making any money and like putting so many hours into this game, and one of them, obviously not like 10, but at least one player could have been given the minimum wage or like minimum salary, some kind of benefits. And who knows, maybe it would have been like a Vulcan scenario, like they wouldn't even have had any chance of like getting playtime ever, but at least they would have had a support system around them to continue pursuing Overwatch professionally. And if they were signed in the first place, well, they probably earned that because they had some kind of success in contenders. So that's where it really like upsets me, where I'm like, well, by virtue of them signing a staff member, at least one player had been robbed from an opportunity to pursue Overwatch full time. And that's where it like really, where I'm like really pissed off about it. So
I can definitely appreciate that take. I think I don't know, man. That's real life, baby. Just like some person just gets moved, like, I guess not really moved up or anything like that, but a team, an organization, or like a company, you can just take this outside of esports too. They sign this person or they hire this person into the role that they're probably not going to do, but it's just to fill that kind of like that void there. And like the person that has put a ton of hours in just doesn't get the opportunity. You'll probably be able to find millions of examples of this happening, both in like esports and without esports. Doesn't mean to say it's right, but like, yeah, I mean, it does blow. And I agree with you, Johnny. Ideally, you just want to foster that kind of tier 2 to help the rest of the league kind of flourish. It's just an unfortunate scenario. Maybe this kind of loophole will be patched up in the future. Not entirely sure.
Come on now.
But
it has
yeah,
to be.
I mean,
Come on now. This is
sure. It does have to be.
Good.
Do we know it's going to be? No, but it's more than likely, at least hopefully on our side, going to be patched up. Because yeah, it does kind of suck. It does give even if it is a Vulcan scenario, and I like the point of kind of the support system being in place and being signed for money, and then you get to play and maybe get to spectate scrims and be in that kind of team environment too. It does play. It does play.
Yeah, I mean,
do you know who also...
one of the proudest things about the Overwatch League is like the amount of people like the actual league supports, in terms of like how much like the volume of money flowing around the league when it comes to like support, like giving people jobs. You know, like we have 20 teams in the league. Minimum is 6 players per league. So that's like 119 now with Evan from marketing on the Washington Justice that like get a full-time pay, except for, you know, who knows what's going on with the Valiant, etc. But like 120 players are like getting money, like good, like money you can live on to play Overwatch professionally. I don't know what the numbers are in other esports, but like I'm proud of that fact. As someone who is employed by the Overwatch League, I'm proud of the amount of people that can pursue Overwatch full time, who, you know, have jobs within the league and like get to work with video games, get to work with Overwatch full time because of the amount of like, you know, jobs that the Overwatch League brings about. So, you know, I think that should be honored. And like, if you try to undercut that by like, you know, selling staff members, it sort of like goes against, you know,
it does undermine
the
integrity of it. Yeah.
I mean, I don't
I'm
really care
definitely,
as much about the whole like they took a player spot away, because like it's up to an org to decide what they want to do with their spots. And I don't think the reality is no one, obviously fairness would be nice, but like life isn't fair generally, especially in these sort of endeavors. Like when we're dealing with entertainment and professional play and like esports.
Yeah,
and gaming,
I'm just because they're a bad actor essentially.
No. But the thing that is actually pisses me off about it, it's not so much about that. It's that, how does it work contract? Are they paying this guy an extra salary on top of his other salary? Or is he just like, oh, you're a player now, but you have all your same responsibilities and same pay? Because to me, that's a far more egregious skirting of the rules, right? Because if you're designating someone a player, they should be getting paid the player's salary, the minimum amount. So if you're telling me like, oh, you're a player via contract, but we're not going to give you your player money or treat you like a player in any way, that to me is far more egregious, because it shows that you can essentially just say, we have a person in our organization, we can call them a player, they're getting paid to do a different job, and we don't actually have to treat them or pay them like a player, right? Because then what is a player anymore? Like, what does that mean in the contractual status of the Overwatch League, right? So that's to me the true controversy here. It's like, sure, it's bad faith. It's like it's bad for the competitive integrity, etc. But
do we know he's not double dipping though? Like, I mean,
we have no idea.
We don't know. We don't know. But that's the thing. Exactly, we don't. But like, I find it hard to believe that justice in a cost-cutting measure would be like, okay, we're gonna sign a player, but it's not gonna be a player. Like, if you're gonna have to pay this guy a player contract, why don't you just sign a player, right?
Yeah.
What the fuck's going on there?
No idea.
What's going on there, right?
Yeah.
I just want to know what's happening with that, because that to me seems like a far more egregious issue. Like overall, like I think that's what I've been looking at the Overwatch League this year, and like the stuff with the Valiant and stuff with the Justice here and other things. Like, well, a lot of times we're molding it, like, because we're like, we love esports. We're molding the competitive aspect of it. But I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is like insidious, the level of potential undermining of the contract rules here, and like what this means for people participating in the ecosystem. It's far more wide reaching, but obviously includes the competitive aspect. So like, that's the only thing that I want to wish to be elucidated about, because like, to me, it makes no sense. If you're going to sign someone on your team, call them a sixth player, and they're being paid as a sixth player, why would you not just sign another player? To me, it implies that something else is going on there. Yeah.
They're not paying him, or they scrapped his marketing accounting contract and then give him a player contract, but then put all the terms in for the marketing and the accounting on top of the player shit, and saying like, oh, you don't need to turn up to practice.
I mean, we have no idea. That's just so.
Yeah, we have no idea, but yeah. I like where you're going with that, Connor. And
all right.
It's,
you got your
that motherfucker should be double dipping.
There we go.
No, you can have more. That's fine.
No,
that's fine.
That's it. That's all I got.
All right,
all I got. I just wanted to pose that question out there for those that haven't thought of it, because to me that's insidious. So.
Well, something that's also quite insidious, I suppose, especially if you are a fan of this team, is the Gladiators' record currently. As it stands, they're 1-4 in the qualifiers. What the fuck? Why are Glads 1-4? They should be qualified already. It doesn't make sense. But are they actually underrated, or have they just had a tough schedule?
Oof.
Or is the meta bad for them? Or like, there's a ton of other questions. Wherever you want to go.
Avast, you want to take this
I think they're underrated. I say this as someone that potentially underrated them in my latest power ranking, but just because it's tough to like currently rate them. But I do think now this is part of my larger copium campaign here of my current life of predictions in the current stage. But because I've had some winners in my predictions, I've had some winners with the Seoul Dynasty and the Toronto Defiant. And I've had some losers. So for example, the New York Excelsior, and what they've done to me. But also someone that I still think is like kind of in between that is Glads, because they've had a really, really hard schedule.
Yep.
If you look at their matches, their schedule's really hard.
I was going to say, I'll quickly remind everybody how Glad's actually got to where they are.
I'm showing it on screen. There you go.
You're showing it?
Show it on screen.
Right. Show it.
Yeah, so they played the Dallas Fuel, Houston Outlaws, San Francisco Shock, and the Toronto Defiant. 3 of those teams have qualified already. 3 of them. They shouldn't have lost that fucking Houston, but I mean, it is what it is. And then they've, of course, they won against the Paris Eternal, and they face Atlanta Reign next, another 12th position. So on paper, yeah, schedule fucking blows for them. Like it's not great. But yeah, I'm definitely in the boat of them being underrated. They have some of the best players in the league. They also have one of the most diverse rosters in terms of roles. They have someone that plays on that team. I can't name a single hero that someone on that team could not play to a very, very good level. And it is very surprising at this point that we are in this kind of situation. Although saying that, we did have that interesting experiment, I would say, with Shu on DPS.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that had something to do with Padipan's wrist injury.
Yes, Padipan's got a wrist injury. Yeah, and he's not playing for the rest of this stage. So he'll be back for the next tournament. If they do obviously want to play him, depending on what the meta is and shit like that. But hopefully he'll be ready for them. But yeah, that was kind of rough. Them experimenting with Shu on DPS.
Yeah.
When they have arms.
So, I think overall I just bring it up because mostly I feel like people, I've seen some, I feel like, and myself included, I think I was like, I got caught in a trap, like, man, Glads aren't that good. But then I look at their schedule and their actual matches in that schedule and what they've been working with. And I'm like, well, actually, I think Glads are still pretty good. And they still have a chance to qualify for Summer Showdown still. It's just everything has to go right for them. But like, yeah. I was just thinking, I just wanted to propose that as like, are Glads as bad as their record indicates? Or are they actually a much better team than their record indicates? And I would say, yes, they're a much better team than their record indicates.
Well, their map score does paint that picture completely. Like, they are 1-4 right now, and they have a better map score than like Florida and New York, who are 1-3. So Glads have played one extra map, and their map score is just way better. They're currently Gladiators sitting at -3 on the board. Florida and New York, who are both 1-3, are -6 and -7 respectively. They do have a chance to get in. They need to fucking smack the shit out of Reign in their next game.
I think they need a 3-1 to have a chance. 3-0 would help a lot.
Yes, a 3-0 would go crazy because then they'd be on 0 as their map differential. And then they'd also tie the Atlanta Reign in that scoreline. They would both be at 2 and 4. So they need to really just smack down Atlanta Reign. But yeah. Atlanta Reign, like we spoke about before, Speedly and Vigilante have just joined the roster, which poses a pretty significant threat to the Glads win streak.
So here's what I'll say: the LA Gladiators,
like they had a fucking win streak. I mean, like the one game that they've won.
Yeah,
against Paris. Go on.
They're 1-4 does not justify how good of a team they are in this meta. That being said, they're not like elite. They're not the LA Gladiators of Kick of Clash or Midseason Madness. They're a good team.
Yeah,
they're not elite. And so, you know, Reiner struggled on the Junker Queen, skewed Funny Astro. Like, we thought there was going to be like the best backline in this current meta, and like individually they are amazing at those heroes. But I still feel like there's been some struggles in figuring out a backline without Shu in this case. So like they've had their fair share of struggles. They lost in map 5 to the Houston Outlaws. They lost to a Toronto Defiant that like look really good in this meta. You know, I'm not going to be like an LA Gladiators like apologist by any means. They're good, but if they miss out by happenstance of having a difficult schedule plus losing like a map 5 to the Houston Outlaws, you know, that's how it goes sometimes. That's how it goes. So yeah, when I look back at the stage, I'm not going to be like, oh, it was a crime that the LA Gladiators didn't qualify for the Summer Showdown. It's like, no, they should have played better. You know, they made some mistakes, and sometimes that happens. So going up against the Atlanta Reign, it's going to be a very interesting matchup. But I think I have Atlanta Reign in that one. Like I think the LA Gladiators are good, but I think Atlanta Reign are actually better in this current meta. So I'm not willing to buy in that I think LA Gladiators, is like a top tier team in this meta by happenstance of their strength of schedule. I actually think Atlanta Rain are probably better. That's my. I guess that feels pretty hot because everyone seems high on.
I don't think it's that hot of a take because it's like competing against them like at the time. Like I think also for Glads, I want to see how the Space edition continues to change them, right? Because Space, when he played versus Paris Eternal, looked really good on Junker Queen. I admit most people will say, yeah, it looked a lot better than Reiner. But in return, they played against Paris Eternal, who is also literally a brand new roster. Not only was it the Paris Eternal, but it was the brand new roster, Paris Eternal. So it's hard to like draw a lot of conclusions about where Gladiators really stand in relation to like the elite teams that we'd expect them to compete with, right? So, but I think I'm hoping that maybe the Space Edition could into the lineup to play more Jungle Queen works out for them. I think he looked good. I think he had like strong mechanics and a lot better positioning than Reiner did at times.
Yeah, he was all right. It was good.
It feels like if, especially in this meta too, if your queen isn't doing that hot, it very much feels more of a smackdown than it would if like a support isn't doing as well, or like a DPS is doing as well, because the queen is just so integral to the comp, and like with the knife pulls and getting good like axe swings and good ultimates. We've seen a lot of fucking whiffed ultimates, but then we've also seen a lot of fucking crazy ones. Lucio's and Briggs are getting super good at like displacing the rampage. I am assuming that they will just continue to play Space even if they go to the tournament, because even though they did play against Paris,
it feels that way, doesn't it?
It feels that way. But also, sure, they fucking whooped Paris, but they're a brand new roster. But like, I still think Space, like his mechanics, I would say they would take him over Reiner at this point. Maybe Reiner just couldn't get to grips with a hero and like how it worked within this meta. Not sure what their kind of conclusion was on that, but it feels like Space is the go-to. And someone I'm actually normally quite high on, Astro, who's known for his fucking Lucio, one of the best Lucio players in the world, I'd say, is just not looked good either, which is very weird. He very rarely, not in this meta, like has bad beats or like has bad engages, but like there has definitely been times when I've watched him and like really paid attention to him. I'm like, oh wow, Astros was like, he's not doing as well as I thought he would coming into the meta. I don't know what you guys think about the backline specifically.
Yeah, it's pretty anecdotal, but I feel like sometimes their ultimate use is a bit off, like purely anecdotal. But I feel like Funny Astro has like used beat engage more than other Lucios, and it's not as reactive as in like to counter blades or like counter rampages as much. On the Jungle Queen point, like you can't really tell like when you're watching the kill feed. Oh my god, I'm about to get an ad. Saved. When you're watching the kill feed as much. But like the discrepancy between having a good Junker Queen and a bad Junker Queen, if you just look like statistically, it's actually crazy like what the difference is. Like sometimes we'll have games, and I think Hardy was a victim of this when the Lone Spitfire played. I forget who they played, but like Hardy had like half the damage done compared to the opposite Junker Queen, and it's like that's a lot of damage done that like your Genji utilizes to like dash upon or like to get finishing blows, or like that your Sojourn can get like hit a railgun off of like a Carnage damage, or like something like that. So while
it's also a lot of self-healing too.
Self-healing, it puts less pressure on your support players. So like while you can't really see it in kill feed as much, like the difference in Junker Queen is actually so crucial in this meta, just to like keep up when it comes to the actual sustain in a sustain meta. So Reiner struggled a bit on that hero, whatever way you look at it, and I think that Space is actually that kind of player that I'd like to sub in as well if you're struggling, like you're 1-4 as a team, and like you can just sub in Space. He's like a super good veteran. Going back to last year, when they were in the Countdown Cup and had success and won that stage, people credited it to Stage being like a composed kind of leader within the team that just like calmed everyone down, was like a calming presence in the team as well. So if you have a guy like that in your team, like that probably alleviates some of, the rotation, some of the shot calling as well. Like I have a lot of respect for Space. So I actually think that if LA Gladiators qualify for the tournament, I think they'll definitely be a contender, like a team that, you gotta take into account as well. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But if they improve their Junker Queen play like a little bit and like Funny Astro has some better beats, like a small things could go a long way. So I don't know. Hope's not out yet
Yeah.
for LA Gladiators. They could still make it.
No, they do need to whoop the Atlanta Rain though. That is
Whoop the
that
Atlanta
is the
Rain.
precursor.
And then the
Yeah.
other thing is like the Florida New York scenario, right? Because Florida and New York, they both play, and neither of them can like win 2 matches. I think it is.
Yeah. So what's interesting about that is Florida play Paris, and then they also play New York. So there's a potential. They both play Paris, in fact, and then they play each other. So there's a very real potential that they are that last fucking game of next week before the tournament could decide that last place.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting because New York play Paris on the Saturday or the Friday, sorry, and then they play.
You need it to be a round robin,
Paris
or
on
like
Saturday.
each team gets 1 win each. Because if Florida or New York gets 2 wins, then that is right.
It is the way that is worked out is quite funny. They do play each other on the very last day on the Sunday, which would be a kind of a fun day. They're Toronto also playing London. Not sure how much of that will really impact, but we'll have to wait and see. Toronto is still looking pretty good. So yes. Now, the team we haven't talked about just yet, Houston Outlaws. Woo! They look kind of good, actually. 3-2 +1 map score right now. They are just above the London Spitfire, but they are below Vancouver Titans. Titans have a better map score than the Houston Outlaws right now. But with all the changes that they've had to their roster, apart from the week where the changes did happen, where they didn't look great, last week they looked really good. Pelican and Merit, they're pretty good at the fucking game. Jesus Christ. Genjis go crazy. So did the Sojourns.
Yeah, I was kind of worried about Houston when Iris left. Obviously, I know Iris wanted to leave, and I was really interested to see like how they were going to be looking when they were playing like in their upcoming matches. And honestly, like I think the Lep has been a fantastic addition. I don't think he's been like perfect, obviously. Clearly, rookie nerves. Like he's had some rough beats in particular, I've noticed at time. But Lastro has been great. I really love like just how much better they're looking overall. The crazy part really is more so like they brought a rookie, and in the span of like a couple games, they've gone from looking like, ooh, like where do I feel about Houston here, to because of their loss to Spitfire, to like you said, the Titans, the Rain win. It's much more looking like Outlaws I think we expected, because Outlaws have been a consistently good top 5 team in North America the whole year. They've been like a top 5 team in North America. And they were after the London loss, they were looking like people were like, oh, what the fuck's going on with them? So I'm glad that they've picked it around here, beating the Titans, beating the Rain here in a close match. Pelican is taking over the server here again, which is something we hadn't really. I feel like Merit's been the one kind of dominating a lot of the kill feed.
Crazy.
Yeah, but the thing is, I actually, in the latest match for the Rain, I think Pelican did a lot more than Merit. I felt like Merit has been kind of like, it's not that he played badly, it's just that he's definitely been quieter, and it's been Pelican really stepping up, which makes sense also because Genji is such an instrumental part of the meta currently. And like how you finish up kills and how you start those fights, and like Blade is like a huge key ult that you play around. So I'm really glad the Outlaws have looked like they've just made it work here with the addition of Lep and keeping Dante on full-time Junker Queen. Because like they're looking good. They're looking really good. I think their tempo is great. Their mechanics are great. And Pelican's really starting to take over the server a lot more, when we haven't seen as much of him just like absolutely taking over the server in comparison to like his contemporaries like Proper, I think, or Kevster.
Yeah, that long Spitfire game like really fucked us up. We're just like, wait, what is this team?
Yeah.
Like, are they good or nah? Was that a fake out? Like, we didn't know. I'm really happy they got 2 consecutive wins, and like a good way too, in like a good way, in good fashion, to like establish themselves as like, hey, we're actually a great team. Merit and Pelican showed up both times, just like an insane damage duo. Building on the first win as well. I forget who they played when they looked fantastic first time around early this stage. So yeah, they look like a great team. I do think there is like one flaw in like their flow chart kind of ultimate usage thing going on. They'll have a few weird engages. Like there'll be something about like Dante's rampages, or like some way they utilize like support ultimates that sometimes put them in like an awkward spot going into some fights. I can't exactly like say what it is, but it felt like watching this Atlanta Reign series. Atlanta Reign were like a very steady, calculated team, great individual players, and it was almost like Houston Outlaws. They were the ones who like almost like beat themselves. And I'm not saying like a Houstonable kind of way where like they threw or anything, but just like sometimes they were like opt to invest ultimates into like a weird fight, or like maybe that someone had gotten picked already, or like they would rampage into a specific scenario and like they wouldn't get as much value as they would have liked from some of their ults. I think if they like iron out their play just like 10%, they could be like scary good, like beat Toronto Defiant level of good. Because honestly, like the mechanical skill is there. I just think that their engages sometimes were a little bit off, and I think they're aware, and I think they'll fix that. Also, Lep got first picked quite a bit in this series, I think, against the Atlanta Reign.
Yeah,
he got toned that down.
He got killed by
did die a lot.
Ton. Like I picked it up. And normally, if something I don't like hit on a lot during when I'm casting and shit like that, if someone dies, dies an extraordinary amount. But it was literally Kai just every fight just headshotting over Railgun, and that felt like either he's like peeking too aggressively, or Kai's going on to some like funky angle, but that wasn't really the case. Like Kai actually said a long time ago, or like at least when Sojin, maybe it was last meta or the meta before. No, like this meta or the meta before, I can't remember. But he was saying he doesn't really like to use slide like aggressively or anything. So I kind of in my head put that down to Lep just being out of position, and then Kai just being like, "Oh, free kill," just like with a headshot.
And for example, like I think Atlanta Reign and Lona Spitfire, they played early this week too. And one thing that I was like continuously impressed about by Lona Spitfire was how they respected Kai. They like played so well around Kai. Whenever Kai would like overclock, teams would do like a great job of just like hiding. There would be like three people like stacked behind a pillar, and you're like, what are they doing? Are they playing like Counter-Strike or something? They're just hiding crouching behind this pillar or whatever. But it's actually like such great awareness from some teams now, the way they're adjusting to like overclocks or like playing around bobs, like just being able to play around the railgun, the capabilities of the railgun, and not like give them not like open themselves up to Kai getting one of those kind of picks. And I think that Houston Outlaws in some scenarios in this series, they just like open themselves out to get picked. And if they just have a little bit more discipline and like play positioning a little bit better, like they could be so good. So this entire rant of mine of just like Houston Outlaws hurting themselves is like, the reason I say this is I am now ready for this tournament to come around. If they qualify, I don't think they're 100% in. For like this to be like the tournament.
Who Houston aren't in it? Who Houston aren't guaranteed in it?
Yeah, they're not guaranteed. But like I am ready. I am waiting. All right, I am waiting for the Houston Outlaws to like this to be their tournament, because what they've shown me with their damage duo and like their peak play, I think they could like fucking make top 3. I am just waiting for them to like enter like top 3 mode, because in my mind they have everything, and they like messed up a few engages, but like when they play at their best, they look fucking good. I am ready to be on the Houston Outlaws hype train. It's just missing a little bit.
I think it's kind of fair, especially off the damage line. I mean, Dante's looked good on the Junker Queen, like he.
Yeah, and also I mean, Glads might not be there
bad
to be that villain, right? Like the Ubermensch. Like so, like with Glads potentially not making the event, or like starting out with like a pretty, even if they somehow make it, but still have a lot to ground to catch up. Like Outlaws have a good chance to go there, because I think it's kind of why I mean, really the only like the real big villain that everyone's kind of like, oh, like what does this mean? Is like Shock, right? Is like, can anyone beat Shock currently? Because I find all the other teams currently very beatable. Like with
they still get rolled in every tournament they turn up to, though. Like
I know,
and then they get.
I'm ready. Come on, gotta break out.
Outlaws, they have the setup here for a good run. They just need to clean it up. They need to clean up a bit. Lep needs to like hopefully not get picked as much and like clean up the beats. But like his mechanics are good. Like the overall team is looking solid. So like they have a chance. Got a real chance.
I think on your point, Johnny, about like teams disengaging and being respectful of like individual players, I think that was that series against the Atlanta Reign was like perfect example of that. The amount of times like someone pops not or does something, like the entire team was like, whoa, okay, we're just backing the fuck up. Teams have gotten so good at that over the last couple of weeks. Like, and I think last weekend was like a prime example.
Yeah,
it's just, we see that, disengage. We don't need to fuck with it. It's going to waste 15 seconds at most, and it's not going to cost us a death. We give up the smallest bit of ground, and we can just run. Then we can just run on forward after that. I think that's
one more thing on that. I think I'm not in any way trying to like justify the meta or anything, but it has been interesting to see some of these teams adapting to the meta and like structuring their play almost like in a GOATS kind of way, where like all the abilities, all the ultimates, the evolution is there, and like things in week 3 of Summer Showdown qualifiers are way more structured than the play was refined in week 1, when we're just like thrown in, and like there's Genji players all over, there's like Sojourns shooting all over. It's like no one's figured out how to play the meta, how to play the comp, and like what makes a good team from a bad team. But like now as an analyst, like in week 3 and going into week 4, you can really start to tell like how teams are thinking, and like how they're strategizing, and how they like how they would like to utilize their ultimates to try to get an edge, either to find an advantage. The play now, it's like night and day from week 1, and so it's been really nice. I'm gonna try in week 4 to put extra emphasis on that on the broadcast, whether it's on like the watch point or the game breaks. I'll really try to put more effort into showcasing like how teams are actually thinking about some of these compositions, and like how they're positioning, ultimate usage, and stuff like that, to really showcase, because I think it's been really cool to see the meta evolve and teams finally start to like structure their play a little bit in this meta.
If only we had the Johnny Telestrator segments.
If only we had a Telestrator.
Sad game, honestly.
Only.
Sad game. Yeah, that would be very fun. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. The Paris Eternal. Who are they?
Wait, what are we talking about? What are we talking about the Paris Eternal?
Well, we just wanted to. I think I just had the Eternal on there because they had the brand new roster reveal, and we wanted to see what the opinions are on that. Also, something I forgot too on this list, and I don't know if you guys covered it, so remind me, Jaws and Johnny. Did we already talk about the? Did we already talk something? Did we already talk about this? The minor drama of the Spilo release drama for London Spitfire?
No.
Oh, with the black and white graphic.
Well, also how they memed on people for not giving farewell posts.
Oh yeah, and they didn't give one.
And then they cut Spilo without giving them farewell posts.
We didn't talk about that. Or did we, Johnny? I can't remember.
No, we
didn't.
I
wasn't
on that.
Here.
No,
you didn't talk about that. Yeah.
Jack, I mean, there's not much to say. I just find it funny.
CEO of Cloud9 even responded unto that and was like, "We're really sorry. Like this is fun."
I just find it funny. That's it. We don't actually talk about it. I was like, that's really funny, and now we can move on.
Yeah. All right, Paris Eternal roster. It's new. Where do they come from? Who are they? Well, a lot of people know, and you probably should do at this point. So the Paris Eternal, they've made some giant. Jesus Christ. Made some giant shifts, and we've seen a lot of roster shifts, but nothing as gargantuan as this one. Basically a brand new team.
Basically a brand new team. Who did they lose to this past week?
They lost to Glads.
And Glads, I think, yeah.
You got 3
Glads. Yeah, just Glads.
Okay. They played 3 matches, they got 3-0 in all of them. No, they played 2 matches. The new roster played Atlanta and LA Gladiators. They got 3-0 in all.
Yeah, but Atlanta was the week before, wasn't their new roster?
Yeah. No, Atlanta was the new roster.
Was Atlanta new roster? I can't remember.
And they got 3-0.
Are you sure?
Yep. 100%.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, because that was the week I missed. So you're right. That was the week I missed.
And they got 3-0.
So I guess there's no reason
nothing to say about this Paris Eternal roster.
Nothing to say?
Okay.
Nothing to say?
That's great.
Hey, I thought the Pharah silliness with Malthal was kind of fun.
Yeah, that was
effective.
That was kind of fun.
It wasn't that effective. But it was kind of
like
cool,
20% effective, 80% fun.
Yeah. It was fucking funny. Astro trying to wall ride outside of Nepal, trying to kill the Pharah in midair while just laughing to himself. I thought that was the highlight of that match when I casted it. I thought that was kind of funny. At the end of the day, like, hey, they're trying some new shit. I don't fucking mind whatsoever. It was fun to see them experiment. I think they're very aware that they're not going to be able to make. Well, they obviously can't make the tournament, but they're not going to be able to take games off of people like the Gladiators because they are pretty much a brand new fucking roster. So trying these bits and pieces, seeing what fucking sticks.
I mean, they did play far in contenders. I think. Like, I think that contenders summit was more friendly to far.
They were a silly hero specialist, is what I've seen. So
that's perfect. We need more of those. We need more like OG Clockwork Vendetta kind of shit.
It's not the player's fault at all, but I do think it's a bit of an oof moment that these guys got picked up and essentially were like, they won contenders. They're gonna come into the Overwatch League and really like show what they're about and give Paris Eternal a chance. And they got 3-0 twice against really good teams, to be fair. But like any sort of like crumble of hopium that they were actually like going to have a bit of a revenge tour now and like give themselves a chance to make the play-ins, it's almost like gone.
Yeah, sure.
This
Maybe
was supposed to be the meta that they could get some wins.
Look at the next 2 games that they have. We already talked about it, but they play the Florida Mayhem and they play the NYXL. Both teams have not looked good. There actually is a chance they could win. Like, there's a small chance, but there is still a chance they can win. They've had like a little bit of time. They had their fucking warm-up against the Glads, whatever. Dude, they might be able to win against the Florida Mayhem. I'm just saying. There is a real possibility that does happen.
Okay, so
maybe they play silly stuff, maybe they don't. Just maybe. Like I said, there's a small chance.
They're 1-15. Currently, Boston Uprising has the last play-in spot at 5-12. So, and their map there fucking sucks. So realistically, you need 5 more wins than Boston Uprising currently to make the play-ins.
You get 2 this week.
2
and then 2 next
Let's
time.
just pretend. I'll give them a little Spitfire upset, okay? 3 in a row. Then you
have
Spitfire
upset.
Lose.
Are you on crack?
Houston Outlaws,
what the fuck
lose.
are you saying?
Vancouver Titans, new meta. Who the fuck knows if they're good in it? You got 4. You only got Shock and the Boston Uprising. So, best fucking case, ultimate best case, like literally dreaming, okay? You get 5 wins for the rest of this season, which gives you... Then you're at 6 wins. And you have to bet on like the Boston Uprising not winning one single more match this season.
Impossible.
They're not making the play-ins.
Yeah,
let's just see what the roster has before next year. Sorry.
They could win against the Mayhem or New York.
I just wanted to see if we got any if we had any interesting takes on them. I was like, it was kind of fun. Like, it didn't look atrocious. It didn't look like as abysmal when we saw them. It just wasn't good still. So I was like, I just wanted to see like what are any reflections upon the Eternals. Like, I do think their season's probably donezo unless something miraculous happens with them.
Here's what I'll say, because I was very dismissive. Here's what I'll say to like restore a little bit of heaviness. I really hope that players like the backline, like Lucamino and Rag Attack, Dove as well, and maybe a couple of the other players. I really want to see them in the Overwatch League next year. So I hope this is not like just them being thrown in at the end of a bad season and then like, sorry guys, you didn't get 2 wins in the Overwatch League, like now you're out. I think Dove, Rag Attack, and Lucamino, I really hope to see those 3 guys in the Overwatch League next year, and I hope like this roster works out for them and they get like a proper chance next year to prove themselves, because this situation they've been thrown into, very suboptimal, not their fault at all. And they deserve a legitimate chance to prove themselves. So I just hope that this season is not like the end of their Overwatch League career. I really do hope they get re-signed and they get a chance next year again.
Here's an extra crumb before we move on to the next topic. Aren't they changing into the fucking Vegas Eternal? And
they are.
All of them. Hang on. Not all of them, right? Oh no, all of them. Yeah, they're all American players. So a small sign points to, okay, no Europeans, we don't have to deal with visas or anything. Maybe they just stick with this roster. Maybe pick up a couple other contenders players. I don't know. But since they're going to like the Vegas Eternal, they're already fucking there. Easy, baby. Like, that kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's what you hope, right?
Yeah, but obviously, who fucking knows? We don't know what's going to fucking happen. But we'll have to wait and see.
I hope they get
There are 4 teams. There are 4 teams right now who are undefeated. I was going to say lossless. I always want to say lossless, but then it reminds me of like audio files. There are 4 teams undefeated right now. 2 in the Western region, 2 in the Eastern region. And let's talk about the Eastern teams, the APAC teams. Seoul Dynasty and the Shanghai Dragons still undefeated in this meta, in this qualifiers. Pretty crazy. Both sitting at 4-4. Seoul Dynasty just beating out the Shanghai Dragons right now on map score, and they've won a single map more than the Shanghai Dragons. So pretty insane stuff. What are we thinking? In fact, Seoul Dynasty are undefeated. Like they are 12-0 in qualifiers. They've not dropped a single map. Shanghai Dragons, 1 map they've dropped, which is fucking ridiculous. That's like better than the Shock and the Dallas Fuel currently in terms of maps played or map win ratio. Yeah, you know what I mean.
I believe in the Dynasty. I'm gonna say, I said it. We came into the stage. I'm like, the Dynasty are gonna pop off. Kitty, please. I'm trying to. Can you get out of here? Come here. So the Dynasty fucking own. They fucking own the Profit. The Profit. Quite awesome. I'm really glad the Dynasty have had a resurgence to form here in the Jungle Queen meta, and Fitz is getting some more playtime too, because I think Fitz is an excellent player. Like, their roster's just good. Their roster's just really, really, really good. And I'm glad that's kind of paid off my belief in them here a bit. Now, Dragons, I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking about Dragons, honestly, like, heading into
Weren't
this
you
meta,
pretty
but
low on the Dragon? No. What was that fucking game that everybody was like laughing at me because I picked Dragons and they actually just started fucking people up? It was against the Spark, I'm pretty sure.
it might have been versus the Spark.
It was against the Spark.
Yeah.
Now they're
So
undefeated.
I think overall, like,
Though I did admit
Dragons,
it was a mistake. So.
I mean, man, like, like, their coordination great, but also, fuck, who are you on a Genji?
Dude, do you
Who are
know what's
on a
really
Genji?
funny? Like, when Seoul Dynasty picked up Who Are You, and this happened with, oh man, this happened with like Bebe as well, right? Where they just have not really played. They played Bebe a couple of times, but the Shanghai Dragons do this thing where they pick up players, play them once or twice, and then it's like, okay, well, you're just going to go to another team, or like you're just going to perma sit on the bench. Who Are You? I was almost convinced that was going to happen. They pick him up, maybe they play him a couple of times in some games that they know they can either win or it's kind of a free game for them, and just get him some time in the server. But then they fucking pull him out in the Genji meta and he still fucking rolls people. And you got to fucking remember when he came out of Apex, everybody was like, holy shit, this guy's like God's gift to gaming. Like, his fucking Genji is crazy. Like, people were going mental for him. And then he didn't really see playtime at all. And it was like, okay, well, that sucks. But I guess there are other players that are better. And now he comes out and just like dumpsters everybody on in this meta. Honestly, it's good. I feel nice about that. It feels good to actually see him play games in the Overwatch League consistently.
It's so funny considering that like he's been benched for so long, and we've been like, his career since 2017 has been so fucking weird, and now he's just like plugged in, and he's like genuinely like one of the best Genjis in the league still. Like, how many players can you say that about that has like remain relevant, that even like one hero at that kind of level for so long? So, you know, it's a different kind of achievement, but it's still like super impressive that Who Are You is still just like a god tier Genji, when there's so many examples of even like Tracer players who were good like 1 year or 2 year, and then like they started to drop off. Widowmakers who were good 1 year, 2 year. Remember when like Linkser was like one of the best Widowmakers in the league on Houston Outlaws, you know? Like, there are so many scenarios of like players excelling at a hero for 1 or 2 seasons and then dropping off, and it's kind of natural. But the fact that Who Are You is still a top tier Genji after all this time being on a bench and like not having a chance to play as much, and he's just plugged in and looks god tier. Like, if you actually watch him play Genji, it's still just like mind blowing how good he is on that hero. And it's perfect for this meta as well. So I was brutally wrong about the Hangzhou Spark so far. They can still make it because they have an easy schedule, I believe. I think
everybody kind of was, right? I mean,
yeah, but I went really hard on them. They're playing Guangzhou and Philly this next week. So,
dude, they're 1-3 with -6. I'm gonna get my coffee. Sorry, I don't know, John. Are we having a break or no? Or are we just gonna go?
Dude,
I'm assuming not.
They're going to break is me turning off the stream. So, you know, but Hangzhou Spark, they're 1-3, but they're playing the Charge and they're playing the Fusion. And if they win both, they're 3-3, and you know, they're pretty much in. I don't know what the prospects are of a team finishing 2-3 and making it. I think that's pretty unlikely, especially because Hangzhou would. Yeah, I don't know what the prospects of that would be, but Hangzhou Spark, they're not out. But Seoul Dynasty and Shanghai Dragons were obviously like the two best performing teams in APAC so far. So I was brutally wrong with my Hangzhou Spark pred. I'll take that L, Avast. And that was a big argument at the start of the stage.
It was.
So, okay, I might jump ahead a little bit. Jaws is gone, but these teams are playing this upcoming week. Seoul Dynasty against the Shanghai Dragons. Do you have a favorite between the two? Do you think one of them is better?
Dynasty.
You think Dynasty is better than Dragons right now?
I just love the Dynasty, man. I love the Dynasty. They've suckered me in finally after years of disbelief against them. I've been like, you know what? This roster is so fucking good. Like, I think they're just looking clean and polished. Now, obviously, I'm not going to count out the Dragons. Like, it's not like this is a guaranteed win for them. I just favor the Dynasty. I love with everything they're doing. I love the roster. I love how clean they look.
Stalker.
And
how about Stalker?
Yeah,
huh?
I know. Soccer, fucking
Soccer's
nasty.
super good.
Fucking here, the real question, the real actual. Well, actually, that is a really juicy pred. But I think the juicier pred is, does Charge beat Spark?
Ooh, Charge been looking pretty good, dude. I mean, Jimmy kind of rolls people like that. I woke up. Obviously, all of us kind of woke up and we saw the news that Jimmy do be fucking people up. I don't think it's that hot of a take at this point. I think it's good.
I mean, I don't
They're
know.
2-2. They're 2-2.
Yes.
They've beaten Valiant and Philly, both in map 5s.
Yes.
Easy.
Yes.
Are we getting? Am I the only one who's like cautious about hyping up the Charge?
No, I'm cautious too. I'm proposing the question. I think I still think I believe enough in the Spark to where I think I still believe enough in the Spark to where they can win that series. But I'm just saying, you should not be shocked if Charge wins it, based off their current performance. You know, based off their current performance, and also they're not every team gets to play against a fusion where like Zest is like ramp sliding into feed and Carpet and fucking Fury is literally rampaging off the map. You know, like not every team gets to play against that version of another squad. So like
on the beat too.
Yeah. So
That
like
beat was,
I still think the Spark probably have it handled, but like I would not be shocked to see Charge win it when you have such an incredible uptick in form currently.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at their roster, like they have like an objectively like pretty good roster now. That was not the case earlier. Like Krong, Faraway, Iveltal, Choice One, Jimmy, Aprida, like that is objectively like a competitive roster. So if this was the roster they went into, like,
stop
with
calling him
this season,
Yveltal. Why does everybody keep calling him Yveltal?
well, I mean, I know it's Cernius, but like,
His new name.
I feel, yes, I know it's his new name, but I feel like there's also like listeners and viewers who actually like just thinks that he's like a random contenders pickup and are still growing accustomed to it. So at some point, yes, I'll fully transition to call him Xerneas, but until
Also,
I feel confident that people know, I'll
I got fucking chewed out last year when I had to do 4 a.m. APAC games with hardly any sleep. It's far away, not far away. Just
far away. Oh,
far away. There's
far
no
away.
A.
Far
Yeah,
away.
I'm just gonna.
Do you
look,
have
Johnny,
to say
I'm
that
just trying
1987 too?
You know what? I'm gonna call him 1987 for the rest of the year. Just
far away 1987.
Just piss people off more. No, just I'm just gonna give you a heads up, John. I want to protect you. You're a kind soul, Johnny.
I appreciate that, Joss.
I don't want you to
Thank
get
you.
your ass out. So.
Yeah, I appreciate your friendship, Joss. You're a very good friend.
Good. Look,
you know, I actually felt bad the other day when you were guesting on the desk, and I realized in hindsight that I should have offered to driven you down to Irvine, and I felt bad.
You
for
do
not
live
asking
fairly close to me, but no, it's fine. I don't care.
It would have been like, you know, an added 15 minutes to my drive maybe, but it would have been a good thing to do for a friend.
Would have been a good vibe.
I felt bad about that, and I'm sorry, Joe. So I didn't offer to drive you to work.
Next time.
Yeah, next time you're on desk, I'll drive you.
Yeah,
there you
go. I do have a car,
and then I'll ask you for
especially because it's quite a drive going all the way to fucking Irvine or whatever.
Dude,
yeah.
like
Well, the only reason why I didn't drive is because my car needed repair. So
on fucking Fridays,
you don't have to drive me.
The drive is like 2 hours. to drive it gets crazy on Fridays because
I'm not gonna lie. I was very happy because I was supposed to work. For people who didn't know, I was supposed to work the entire weekend, even including the Friday. And then our town manager was like, "Oh no, we're gonna change it so your customer Matt." And I'm like, I'd rather custom Matt than fucking drive have an Uber ride for 2 fucking hours in traffic,
dude. There was a huge traffic accident on this past Friday with like involving a truck or something. So I was late for rehearsal. I drove there, it was like 1:50, and then ended the show and like drive back. It's 2 hours. So I essentially to work, I'd have to leave at like 7:30 and be home by like 8:30, and so it's just fucking crazy. But Saturday, Sundays are nicer because there's less traffic. Anyway, I'm sorry I didn't drive you to work, Joss. What was I talking about? Going to charge. Going to charge.
Yeah.
I forgot about the topic.
I would 100%. This is fine. I mean, this is kind of related to like the Fusion Spark do not fuck thing, and then the charge.
I pressed turn it on my talk big bar though, but it's fixed.
Oh, okay.
Scuffed. Yeah. It's fine.
Everything's okay. Yeah. So Xerneas / Yveltal, X and Y player. Didn't really complete. I don't think I completed X and Y, but Appreciate the Pokemon references. Jimmy and Aprita got added. If that's what we were talking about, new additions.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, if this was the roster going into the year, I actually would have been hype on this roster. I said at the start of the year.
Aprita?
Yeah. I said at the start of the year, I thought Guangzhou Charge going into the season had the worst roster in the entire league, you know? But like Rio and Develop, like hit scan, stuff like that. I just hated that roster. This roster, it's genuinely good. Like, I would not be surprised to see them qualify for the tournament either, because it's objectively like a good roster on paper. So I expect great things from them. It just kind of sucks that Chengdu Hunters also like kind of came into form this stage 2, and they're looking better with, you know, naturally Jinmu's on the Genji, and Eleve as well is popping off. So like before, Guangzhou Charge suffered because they had a bad roster, and now they're kind of suffering because like there's other really good teams in the APAC region too. So, you know, it's a different kind of fault if they don't end up qualifying, but I like their roster. I like what they're doing. That region is actually kind of stacked now, with Chengdu, Guangzhou, Philly, and Hangzhou all in like that mid-table kind of tier.
Stacked, but like they don't know how to fucking play the meta. They literally don't know how to play the fucking meta. Like, that's the problem. Is like 2 of the teams know how to play the meta.
It's a competitive region. Yeah,
like I would say like it's stacked outside of this current iteration of like the current meta. Like, I think this is it's a great region, obviously. There's lots of good players, good teams. It's just right now, there are 2 teams that know how to play the game, and a bunch of them have no fucking clue what they're doing when you're watching them. So that's like a pretty distinct issue with APAC currently.
I do think having more... this has been talked to death, I think, at least on Plat chat, but I do think having more teams would actually fix that problem. And like more practice partners and shit like that. They definitely scrim like tier 2 teams, like contenders teams like T1 and shit like that. But dude, if they just had more teams, I think this region would go fucking crazy, and it wouldn't be such a massive divide between the top 2 and then the rest of the teams. But you know, maybe that changes with time. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, do you guys have any more comments about the Charge? I think we can just go on to match results. I'm assuming we just want to look over the games that happened this weekend.
Isn't that what we've kind of done?
Have we?
I mean, like, honestly,
sure.
You guys want to do power rankings? Are we done with the teams?
Or do you want to do who makes Summer Showdown?
Yeah, there's
which
also
is kind of like power rankings. What are our
Preds? We should maybe talk about Preds of like who we think actually makes Summer Showdown.
All right. Okay. So here's what I think we do as we're running through the rundown, like during the show itself. I think we do not in this order, but we do power rankings on the Solomon website. We do a pick'ems. We do pick'ems because that's like Preds. Or we just like do a few pick'ems, not all pick'ems, but a few pick'ems, and who we think qualifies.
Okay.
Sure.
Let's do who we think qualifies.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I got you.
Let's do who we think qualifies first, and then we'll do pick'ems and then power rankings.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay, cool. Wait, what was the first one? Oh yeah, who makes Summer Showdown?
All right,
who makes the?
Right, so APAC, there are 2 spots.
There are 2 slots left: Hunters, Charge, Fusion, Spark, Valiant. Valiant, there's no fucking shot. There's 0 and 4. The only 2 teams right now that are on 2 and 2 that are currently in contention for that are Chengdu Hunters and the Charge. Chengdu Hunters have a better map score than the Charge do currently. Chengdu Hunters sitting at -1, Charge sitting at -4. And then 2 other teams that are the Valiant, the Fusion, and the Spark are 1 and 3. So realistically, there's 4 teams right now that could make it.
Yes.
What are you guys thinking about what do you guys think about who is in the best position right now is the Chengdu Hunters to make the tournament? Do you think Chengdu Hunters will end up going there?
I think Chengdu makes it because they're playing Guangzhou. And if they don't beat Guangzhou for some reason, because we respect the Charge, they're playing the LA Valiant. And so that's essentially going to be their 3rd win. And I think you make it with 3 wins. So Chengdu. 100%. The 4th spot, where it's like between Guangzhou, Philly, and Hangzhou, that's where it gets interesting.
Yeah, because Charge play Hunters and then they play Spark, which could determine quite a bit that game. That's on the Saturday. Yeah, I guess technically Saturday is the 2nd block of APAC games next week. So that should be quite interesting. Do you guys think the Spark can beat the Charge? Or do you think Charge just kind of roll because Jimmy kind of go crazy?
I think Spark can beat the Charge. I think if they've, I don't know, the Gouchway Bernard swap ups have been weird too for the Spark. But I think Spark, the talent's there. We've seen they can have good moments. They just need to, if they get their roster cohesive, they can beat the Charge. Because the Charge still are like, they're heavily reliant on the himage factor, the doggage factor. How much dog does Jimmy currently have in him? You know, like how much himage is he? Like that's, if we're doing the X-ray of the lungs, like what are we looking at? We're looking at 1, 2
what
dogs, 3
percentage
dogs,
of
like
dog?
what percentage of dog does Jimmy got in him? And like I think overall, like sure, Charge have some decent overall pieces too when you include Xerneas and also Aprita, right? Like they have some good pieces, but like I'm seeing a team that seems very raw, and they're relying a lot on like their pop off, and they're playing against other very raw, uncoordinated like teams that don't know what they're doing. In like the bottom like 4-ish teams of APAC 4-5 even. So though I think Gaga and Hunters have been getting better, have been rounding out a lot more, which is why they're a little bit ahead. So yeah, I still think Spark can probably take that. I'm putting my vote for Hunters are pretty locked in. I agree with Johnny. I think Hunters are locked in, and then I'm going, because also you can't count out the Fusion though, right? Because technically, couldn't Fusion?
They're playing
if
Soul
they beat
and
Dragon,
Hangzhou.
Soul first.
Yeah.
So let's say they lose to Soul, they beat Hangzhou. They're 2 and 4.
Soul Spark, I should say. Yeah.
It will then go down to map score. If they go 1-1 this weekend, they'll be 2 and 3 overall.
2 and 4.
2 and 4, sorry. They will have to they have to sit there and wait for Hunters to lose twice and Charge to lose twice. Is that gonna
maybe they're fucked. Yeah, maybe they're fucked. Okay.
Is that gonna
in that case,
both Spark and Fusion are in that position.
So it's Hangzhou or Guangzhou?
I think I'm going Spark.
Yes.
Probably. Yeah.
Spark and Charge, that match will probably be the determining factor for the weekend.
I think I'm going Spark. Hunters is my people that make it an APAC then.
Unless Chengdu Hunters, they're actual geniuses, and I'm not allowed to say this because I technically work for the league, but they try out some interesting strats against the Guangzhou Charge. Guangzhou Charge beats the Chengdu Hunters, and then Chengdu beats Valiant to qualify, and then both those teams would be 3 and 3.
Why?
I don't know.
I'm not entertaining.
All right.
I'm not entertaining. I'm not.
That was too off.
I'm moving beyond.
No, it might not actually be.
So we're pretty in line with Chengdu Hunters, and then either Charge or Spark making it. Just going on the fact that Fusion still have to play fucking Soul, so they're probably going to go 1-1, if that. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. I personally, honestly, just on the recency bias, I'd probably go with Charge. But that game on the Saturday will fucking pound. It's going to be funny because you're like, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. We'll see. All right, let's move over to
Chengdu and Hangzhou. Our final answers, right? Seoul, Shanghai, Chengdu, Hangzhou. We think, and Jaws think Guangzhou. Yeah, sure. All right.
I think Charge.
Yeah,
and then you guys can fucking think
whatever you want.
That's fine.
Yep.
Okay, so the Western standings, there are 4 teams that have made it already. 2 of them have a perfect map record, both 5-0. That is the Shock and the Dallas Fuel. And then you have Toronto Defiant locked in at 4-1. Then Washington Justice 3-2. And that's mainly off their map record. There's still 4 more places. And the people that are best in line for it right now are the Titans and Outlaws, who are both on 3-2. But Titans inching above them with a +3 map score versus Outlaws' +1. Now, the teams that might not make it, the fucking Glads, who are 1-4, and then Florida Mayhem and the MYXL. And we've already spoken about this a little bit, but the Florida Mayhem MYXL arc is very funny because it's literally just a trifecta of teams. One of those teams aren't even fucking making it. That will decide their own fate. But their fate could have already been decided, to be fair, depending on how the matches end up going. Florida Mayhem and MYXL were playing each other, and they also play Paris Eternals. So there could be some major upset shit there. It's going to be a pretty scrappy fucking game. I'll tell you that right now. What do you guys think about either the Titans, who are currently sitting on 3-2, same with the Outlaws 3-2, of them making the tournament? It seems pretty set in stone. Vancouver play Boston, and the Houston Outlaws play the Washington Justice.
I actually think it's just like a map differential thing for both of those teams. Because I know that if Dallas Fuel 3-0'd Florida Mayhem, then Vancouver would have been in. So they were essentially like a map away. Dallas, like 1 map away from qualifying. So I think Vancouver are pretty much in. Not guaranteed, obviously, but I think, you know, it's very likely. Vancouver, I think it's very likely too. So I think Vancouver and Houston, I think we can pretty much assume that they'll make it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, also
Cool.
Vancouver is playing Boston, right? And like, sure, like it's not like Boston has been like awful, I think, but they haven't been good. And Vancouver looked really solid in the meta. So like, I think Vancouver are really safe. I think after Outlaws' most recent performances and based off their map differential, I think Outlaws are pretty set and think to make it, in my opinion, as well. My vote goes to Titans, Outlaws, Rain, and then like the other one's kind of like I'm like, oh, I don't know.
The
The
other
other
one's
ones I'm kind
very
of I don't know, sure.
sussy. So the
I
London Spitfire and the Atlanta Rain are currently 2 and 3. Who are they playing? The Atlanta Rain is playing the Glads, and then London Spitfire are playing Toronto. So they're both playing what you'd think, especially with the Glads, pretty tough
Yeah.
teams. What do you guys think about London then?
Yes.
Do you think London can win against the Toronto Defiant? Because if they lose that map and then Gladiators run over the Rain, they could be in trouble.
I mean, I think Defiant looked really good in this meta. And I don't think like Spitfire are necessarily bad by any means, but they're not I don't think they're currently able to beat like the top 4-ish teams in North America. Is my kind of view with how the meta is settled out here a bit as teams have gotten better. I think they look like they're a solid like mid-tier contender in this meta. And so I'm especially because like it's clear they still want to run. It's not that the May Gambit's bad, right? Um, but like it's clear they want to run a lot of backbone May, and it's not bad. It's just clearly still not optimal on like a lot of maps. Like it still works, it has value. It's just you would definitely prefer to have like some Genji at points. So but it also works in certain other areas. So I don't know. I think overall I'm feeling like I also don't think they can do as many of their micro plays as much because it's very hard to like set up and do like their crazy shit where they like send the Lucio and like Sparker or like Backbone and like the Lucio off because you need to have your Lucio and your players like so tight together in this meta often. Like it's really only your DPS that ever split occasionally for like setting off a Genji dash or like getting an aggressive slide or like getting an aggressive angle to slide back. Like you just can't like be splitting like this, and that's where I think a lot of their power comes from as a team and their coordination. So yeah, I don't feel confident in London beating Defiant at all. I think Defiant.
So if London lose 3-0 to Toronto Defiant and the LA Gladiators beat Atlanta Rain 3-1 or 3-2, it's going to be very interesting because then London Spitfire, Atlanta Rain, LA Gladiators are all 2 and 4 and are within like 2 map differential of each other. So it's going to be very interesting to see how those 3 teams settle. If London lose 3-0 and LA Gladiators win against Atlanta
It's going to
Rain.
depend on map score. Like a lot of it is dependent on who whoops who. If the Glads end up destroying Atlanta Rain in the 3-0, but if Atlanta Rain play like kind of upset here and take them to a map 5, and even if they lose, the Glads only get a +1. That's pretty bad because there will still be a -2.
Yeah, I wonder what the tiebreaker would be.
And the Atlanta Rain would be -1. If they go to a map 5 and Atlanta lose, Atlanta could still be it. Like, dude, there are smarter people out there that do this shit. I fucking hate doing this kind of math and stuff like that. There are way smarter people out there, thankfully. But what's really funny to me, dude, I know. Look, they both fucking Mayhem and NYXL can still make it. That trifecta of fucking matches, the Florida versus Paris, NYXL versus or like Excelsior versus Paris, and then Mayhem versus Excelsior. One of those teams could make it in if they go 2-0 on this weekend, which is doable. Their map score is pretty horrendous, and if my way of thinking is correct, they actually might be eliminated even before Sunday because of Mayhem and XL because of map score.
No. The winner would still have
no,
a
because
chance
they're
to
1
be
and 3.
3-3.
They're 1 and 3. Yes. Sorry. They're 1 and 3. Yes. I thought they were 1 and 4. My bad.
Here's what I think. Here's my prediction, just to like
Go on.
put it into stone. I think Vancouver's in at 5. Houston Outlaws, I think they're in at 6.
Agreed.
I
Sure.
think Atlanta Reign will beat the LA Gladiators. That's my prediction for the week, which would mean that they are 3-3.
Yep,
That would
they're
mean
in.
that they're in. London Spitfire will lose to Toronto Defiant. London Spitfire 2-4. Won't make it at 2-4. Because I think New York Excelsior will win both of their matches and end up in 3-3. And so it will be Atlanta Reign 7, New York Excelsior 8. And I think New York Excelsior qualifies over the LA Gladiators and London Spitfire. That's my take.
Even though they have a massive map deficit.
Because they would be 3-3, and both of those teams would be 2-4. No,
sure.
No,
it depends
London Spitfire would be 2-4.
It depends how hard NYXL win their games.
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah,
because
you think they're gonna
3-3.
Yeah, you think they're gonna. Well, yeah. If they win both their matches, they would be 3-3 because Glads have to win. Because Glads are they're at 1 win.
Game. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Glads have to win, and then also Mayhem obviously have to win. And like, so you think New York is going to beat Mayhem?
I think New York is going to beat Mayhem and the Paris Eternal. And I think
the Paris Eternal I can see.
I take that bet. Yep. I'm with Johnny.
I can see them beating Eternal. I don't know if I can see them beating Mayhem still.
Okay, so it'll be interesting to see the Florida Mayhem, what strategy they opt for. Because they could just let's continue the Farah Mercy shit because it was kind of fun, it worked. Or they'll be like, hey, we have a genuine chance to like make the Summer Showdown if we win 2 matches. What if we play meta? I don't know what the right answer is.
Well, also, New York has to show up. Like, the New York of the beginning of the stage was hyper gigapound. Like, Yaki was firing on all cylinders. Their team was like an incredible tempo. The aggression was good. And then in their follow-up matches, it was disastrous. Like, it felt like a complete 180. Like, when we watched them play, like, Yaki, sadly, my Flex CPS hero, fell off a cliff a tad. But also on top of that, the entire team looked way, way worse. Like way, way worse. Like none of them were getting picks. Their aggression was weird as fuck. Their ults were bad. Like it was a complete shift from what they were at the beginning of the stage. So like, if New York shows up, I could see them winning both their matches. If New York does not show up, I don't see them. I don't know if they beat Mayhem. So, I don't know. I agree with you in Rain making it though. So I kind of just need one more. And I think because like there's no way Mayhem beats.
London still has a good chance if they get like 1 or 2 maps against Toronto.
Yeah, they just need to get
2-4 with good maps, I think.
Yes, but if Mayhem wins both their matches and they get in over London, right? So
true.
Yes.
Yeah, so like, and Mayhem and New York will probably have the easiest schedules to make it alongside because of the fact that they both play Paris and they both play each other.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, so it's most likely going to be Mayhem New York because like I don't think Spitfire beats Defiant. They have to have like really good match for them. So that leaves them at 2 wins. Rain, I feel confident that they will beat Glads. So that will take them 3-3. So they'll pretty set. I think I'm going Rain Mayhem. I think I'm going Rain Mayhem.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what I think I'm going with that.
I don't think this is quite contrarian, but I will go Glads. Fuck it, dude.
You will go Glads. So not only do you think that the Glads will beat the Atlanta Reign.
Yep.
By how? Wait, fuck, I'm lost.
That'll take them. If they win both their matches, they'll go to 3-4.
They only play 1 game.
Yeah, they only play 1. So they'll.
Oh
they'll
no, you're right. They only play. Yeah.
They only play the Atlanta Reign.
They'd go 2-4.
So they'll go 2-4
3-0 or 3-1 Atlanta Reign.
If they 3-0, they'll be on a 0 map diff, right?
Yeah.
And then it literally relies on other teams.
I think Glad's making it is like a fever dream. I think it's
it is fucking crazy.
Hard.
It is crazy. But dude, listen to this. Fucking Redemption Arc, they won 2 fucking tournaments already. They're going to come in, swing their dicks, and then everybody is going to bow down to them and just take the L's because they need Glads to win it.
Was
the
next tournament.
Midday.
There we go. We solved it. We've solved competitive Overwatch. They couldn't have figured out who has the best chance of making it if it wasn't for our discussion right there and then. We did a great job, lads.
So true.
All right.
I mean, we've kind of done power rankings already, just in this segment. Well, kind of. I mean, we've kind of listed who we want. We can take my fever dream shit out of it though. With Glad's not making it.
Let's do it quick, Josh. Let's just
I think
quickly.
it'll be fun. Yeah. No, we'll do fucking power rankings. But I'm saying we've kind of discussed our points for various teams. I do think in a non-fever dream state, MYXL over Mayhem for me personally. I've got that belief. I've still got that faith in the New York Excelsior front line and their DPS.
Do you want to do power rankings or some pick'ems first?
Power rankings first, then
power
pick'ems.
rankings. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we need to move with some speed because we're hitting a. I guess it's not crazy long episode yet so far. It's been like 2.5 hours.
It's not crazy.
No, I mean, we just got this
we'll
power rankings and Bren's player of the week, and then we're good.
Yeah.
I'm doing some house cleaning here to kick things off. So I don't know. You guys can't see the stream, can you?
I can look at your screen right now on the stream.
Yeah, I'm watching the stream. Yeah, I'm watching the stream.
So you guys see the Eastern region. I think we only have to figure out the middle tier, and I think we're good, right?
Well, yeah. So Seoul at the top, Shanghai, and then I had Charge. But both of you had Spark, right?
I had Spark above. I can't remember if I ended up having Spark above Charge or not, but I had Hunters above them both. So.
Yeah, Hunters is definitely above them both. And then I said Hunters Charge.
Oh, I went Hunters Charge Spark. I did go Hunters Charge Spark. Yeah, I did.
So Johnny, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm outvoted here, 2-1.
True.
Of course, I'd like Spark above the Charge.
Honestly, I'm kind of flip flopping. When I made that power ranking, I've realized now I'm still feel like Spark can figure out their tank situation and win that match. So I'm willing to give you a flip-flop vote.
I need you. So are we flipping a coin? Are we flipping a coin for Charge and Spark?
Let me get the coin.
Yeah,
just flip the coin.
I'm willing to become a flip-flop.
I have the broadcast coin.
There we go. I like the pillow situation that Jones has going.
Korean 1.
Yeah, I know. It's nice, right?
You want to say in Korean? Upek 1. 500 Korean 1. Upek 1. Or Pek 1, sorry, not ooh. That's the other way around.
Pek 1.
Pek 1. Ready?
Pek 1.
Head. Wait, what? Wait, what's heads? Is Charge heads?
Heads is gonna be Charge, Tails, Spark.
Heads, Charge, Tails, Spark. Heads, by the way, is a crane. It's Tails. It's Tails.
There we go.
A Spark, right?
Yeah, for Spark.
All right, Spark above the Charge. There we go. Thank you, coin flip. Thank you.
I realized after I made my power ranking, when I did mine the other day, I was thinking more about it, and I was like, yeah, Charge are fucking, but I feel like Spark have the talent
this coin
to bring it together.
Is older than some of our viewers and some of the players in the Overwatch League. I just want to point that out.
Oh, that's crazy.
Really?
It has a lot of weight in terms of history as a coin. There you go. 2002, that coin.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Perfect.
I'm lost when it comes to the Western region. How do you guys want to do this?
I'll tell you what I put my number one. We can start with our top and our bottom. Here's the top.
Sure.
Shock. Here's the bottom.
Shock Fuel Toronto.
Yeah, Shock Fuel Toronto
right.
are my top, and then bottom Eternal, and then we go from there.
Okay.
Let's do after Toronto Defiant then, because Justice are in, but it doesn't mean to say that they are just below. I would honestly put Houston Outlaws.
I would also put Outlaws in top 4. I think Outlaws top 4 is like not a hot take at all currently.
Okay. Yeah.
Then it's either Vancouver or Justice.
Not Rain?
I think it goes Vancouver. I think it will, because you have to think about. So I think the thing about Rain currently is when I was thinking about them when I was doing mine, I believe. Like I have to go back and think about my whole like thing here. What did I have? I think it was like yes, I had Rain. I had Rain after Outlaws. I think Rain are a better, more well-rounded team than Titans. Their upward trajectory is really good, and Titans clearly are like they're good in this meta. But I feel like the Rain with Vigilante and Speedily, and then like Hawk continuing to improve on Junker Queen, I feel confident about the Rain. So
do I.
I can definitely be talked into the Rain, yeah.
Okay. Great. I feel like that's an easy top 5. Great. Wow, this is so efficient. I don't know. We've never been this efficient with power rankings before. This is amazing.
Because we have the coin.
That's why they have the coin. Costa was the problem. Just saying.
Now, it gets controversial, I think, after this a little bit. It starts getting controversial. I would propose Titans next.
After Rain?
After Rain.
Yes. I would say Justice, then Titans, personally.
So I want to propose. So I had this very same dilemma, Jack, and I want you to explain what your reasoning would be here, because in their most recent match, the Titans beat the Justice.
They did.
Obviously, it's not 1-to-1, right? It's not a 1-to-1 comparison by any means. Like the match head-to-heads don't always determine your ranking by any means, but I felt like Justice, because even then they barely beat Spitfire too, right? In their map 5, when I don't think Spitfire have been looking amazing necessarily.
My shred of hope here, I guess, when you put it like that, I think is that Assassin and Decay, even when they go to like a LAN event, I think will pound. I think they're going to have less nerves than the Vancouver Titans, and I think they'll perform better on a stage. Fucking with the enemy team right next to them.
Okay, I'll say this.
I truly believe at LAN they'll perform better.
Here, I'll say this to you, Joss.
Yes.
Let's picture this match: Washington Justice against the Vancouver Titans in Toronto.
Yes.
Who do you think the crowd supports? Who do you think the crowd is cheering for?
The fucking Titans, obviously.
Yeah. I think the environment is going to be way friendly.
Crowd buff
to the Vancouver Titans. I think the crowd buff is going to be real.
Also, Titans' current mental is like really good. I think the Titans,
it is very good.
Environment,
yeah,
their
true.
environment seems really good currently.
Yeah, they're vibing.
I mean, yeah, sure. I can back down. Yeah, fine. Okay, yeah. I'm outnumbered here, but I still think Justice might go giga crazy on LAN. But Hyper Mega
That'd be cool
is
to
crazy.
See. All for it. Be cool to see.
Yeah, I think that's very close.
All right. So next 2 teams, I think, are London Spitfire and the LA Gladiators. I'm not sure in what order, but I feel like are they part of this tier?
Well,
I'd say yes. My personal opinion, because think about like what the tier you'd put them below. If you put them a further tier below,
yeah, you just don't.
You're saying they're competing with like New York and Mayhem, you know, and that's like too low, I think, for them.
Would you put London above Glads?
So that's the juicy part, as like if Glad's underrated, because based off their actual match history, I would say Glads can beat London.
I would say too.
Based off the teams they've played. Yeah. But also Spitfire have been getting results still. You know,
I don't think London looked great this past week. The May is clearly not working. Teams have kind of figured it out. I think the Gladiators would just go into that matchup and be like, okay, this is how we beat London. Job done.
I think Glads would lay them down. Yeah, lay them down. Yeah.
And also just another thing for why reason I'm willing to cede the Glads over Spitfire here, so I'm fine to go with that. I also feel like it's still just hard to judge like what Glad's trajectory is currently because they played Paris for the latest match. But like,
sure,
you know,
sure.
I'm willing to put Glad's above Spitfire, but I didn't personally have it that way. But I'm willing to have Glad's.
I would give Glad's way more benefit of the doubt. I would put Glad's. Yeah, Glad's Spitfire, and then the bottom teams: Boston, New York, Mayhem, Eternal. But I think you kind of probably go Boston, Mayhem, Excelsior, Eternal. I don't know.
I think I had Mayhem, New York, Excelsior, or no, Mayhem, New York, Eternal. I think were my.
What about Boston?
Where's Boston?
Oh, Boston, and then Boston. I had Boston like, man, what was my reasoning here? I'm trying to remember my old reasoning why, because I went through all this. So I'm like, there's no way I had to remember. Oh yeah, I had Boston under New York and Mayhem.
Did you actually? Wow. Wow. I think that's a bit of a hot take. I personally would have Boston, New York, Florida, Paris.
It depends on how much like credence you give to Florida Mayhem pulling out fucking Farah Mercy against Dallas Fuel and like making it a fun match, or like the double flex support on Hollywood, you know?
I actually like the double flex support. Hollywood. I quite like that.
Yeah,
that was
but
fun.
come on now. Like,
I know. But that's what I would put it. Boston, New York. What do you think, Johnny? Where the fuck where you head
So
at?
I'll actually entertain for the Mayhem. I'll actually put them. In my opinion, I put them at the top of this tier because I think it's fucking funny, and I think Boston Uprising, New York Excelsior, not really the most polished teams. I don't think they would go into that matchup and be like, "Oh, this is how we shut down the Senjata on our composition." It's like, no, do I trust them to like tactically execute how to take down an inferior composition like that? No, I think if Mayhem commit to the Gunba crack pipe or whatever, I actually think that like they would throw some of these teams off guard.
So your analysis is Loud is funny.
Loud is funny, and also I go against my previous pred that New York would win both matches. So I've done a Loud is funny plus arguing against myself, like so that's very cool of me. But I want to believe in New York. I want to, but
I continue to believe in New York. I do. I very much believe. Do I? In reality, are they going to make it? Probably not. But I still want to believe. I don't. I will. Boston still, I think, goes above Mayhem. Maybe the crack pipe stuff will end up working out.
Boston goes against Mayhem.
Mayhem.
Did you say that too, Avast?
That what? Boston goes above Mayhem?
Yeah.
No, I had Mayhem.
No,
New York,
he
Boston.
had below.
I had
New
Mayhem,
York.
New York, Boston.
All right.
Yeah.
I think it's fine as is. I think Mayhem, Florida, Boston, New York is a fair ranking.
I think that's the middle ground. I'm happy, kind of happy to concede with that. Yeah. Okay.
I think so here's the thing about New York. Yes, did they get flattened at the rest of their stage? But think of who they've lost to. So they beat Outlaws.
Yeah. Really good.
They
teams.
lost to Fuel. They lost to Titans, and they lost to Shock. So two of those teams are looking like the two best teams in North America. And they took a map off Fuel still, by the way, and had some close moments during that. And then, Titans, like, it wasn't looking too hot, but it was still close-ish, though it was a 3-0.
Yeah, okay. How the fuck
Shock, they got
Florida above them?
Here's my reasoning for that. My reasoning for that is Silly Champ, and also I don't trust New York. No. I also don't trust New York. After what started out really well, I don't trust New York I trust them enough to be decent, to like have some good moments, but I don't trust them enough to not shit the bed. While Mayhem, I think they have enough structure where like they could do something dumb and like they might not look amazing, but at least they'll be consistent in like their role, their niche.
Okay,
you know?
So the Silly Champ argument. I mean,
yes.
Heads is New York.
New York heads. New York heads.
New York heads. New York heads. Tails, Florida, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why do you reflip it? Why do you reflip it?
Because I saw the fucking result on the first one. I'll reflip it again if you really want. New York heads. Tails, Florida. Tails is the 500. That's Tails.
But you lifted the coin showing the bottom.
No, I'll do it again, Johnny.
It has to be the top of the coin you're showing to the camera.
I did. I fucking did. I did that.
Show it to us.
It's 500 again. It's 500 again. It's Tails, bro. It's fucking Tails. It's Mayhem. It's Mayhem. Jesus Christ. The coin is never
I
wrong.
fucking tried.
Florida Mayhem. The coin is on your side.
Chance are not with you.
All right.
That's it. I think.
Yeah, let's do this. We're not doing predictions, but let's do this. Let's just quickly run through some of the matches. We'll do it like 5 fast questions, like that kind of funny segment thingy. I'll just run through some matchups quickly, and you guys just say which team you think is going to win. Okay? Atlanta Reign against the LA Gladiators.
Reign.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're all going with Reign against the LA Gladiators. Yeah. All right. San Francisco Shock against the Dallas Fuel.
Shock.
All right. We're all going San Francisco Shock against the Dallas Fuel. Hangzhou Spark against the Guangzhou Charge.
Spark.
Okay. So Joss is going with Guangzhou. Me and Avast are going with Hangzhou Spark. Got it. See what's next. Washington Justice against the Houston Outlaws.
Outlaws.
Probably Outlaws, yeah.
All right. I'll go with the Houston Outlaws against Washington Justice. Philadelphia Fusion against the Hangzhou Spark.
Spark.
Spark. Seoul Dynasty against the Shanghai Dragons.
Dynasty.
Dynasty, yeah.
Okay, we're all going Seoul against the Shanghai Dragons. I don't know. Lee J gone, and who are you? They've been looking sick. It's gonna be good. We got some great matchups this week. Amazing matchups. Last one. Florida Mayhem against the New York Excelsior.
Mayhem.
New York, baby.
New York. Why didn't we rank New York higher? I am going with New York too. Jesus Christ. All right. Well, there you have it. What a fucking scuffed episode of Plat Chat. But hopefully people are able to enjoy it. I don't think people like require the visual elements to enjoy an episode of Plat Chat. I mean, we're good. We're a good group of guys here. We're just having a good time. I hope people appreciate that.
Just three friendly friends.
Three friendly friends. Yeah.
Three friendly friends.
Three big guys.
Fluffy pillows waiting to be hugged.
And power rankings ready to be ranked.
They were good power rankings. Yeah, I like those.
Yeah, pretty decent.
But yeah, thank you for dealing with my bullshit, gentlemen. I promise next week I'll have it set up, and we'll have a fourth guest next week. So it'll actually be a proper show, I promise.
Who needs Custa anyways?
Yeah, what a buster.
Yeah.
Custa the buster.
Tired of that guy.
If Custa was here, the power rankings would have taken another half an hour, to be fair.
That's true. Custa would have had some more objections here, so I'm glad that we were able to bulldoze through it. Actually, you know what? We forgot Bren's Player of the Week.
Oh, Bren's Player of the Week.
True.
Who is Bren's Player of the Week?
Who do we go for Bren's Player of the Week? I think it goes to Violet, or not Violet, rather Twilight.
I think it was the haircut tweet.
I think it was the Twilight for being an absolute Chad at the true adamantium backline in this, him and Shorong, and then fucking make sure to get out of there in time with his hair appointment.
That's a good one.
That's Chad as fuck from Twilight. So
right.
I think it should be Twilight.
On appointment.
Twilight.
Bren's Player of the Week.
Twilight is Bren's Player of the Week. Confirmed. It's official. Put it down in the Excel document. There it is.
Done.
All right. Thank you, guys. Joe, send us out.
This is an outro.
Do you do outros? You guys don't fucking do outros.
Yes, we do.
Hey,
yeah, we've always
make
done
sure
outros.
you click the video in the sidebar. I don't know which way I'm pointing down over here. Maybe there's a sidebar. Click more videos. It's been great. Love you all.